Good evening. Sorry, Jay, thank you. The North Hunterdon-Voorhees Regional High School District Board of Education meeting on Tuesday, March 18, 2025 is now called to order. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046, adequate notice giving this time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting was published by the Hunterdon County Democrat and the Star Ledger on January 9, 2025. In addition, notice of this meeting has been posted at North Hunterdon High School and Voorhees High School, provided to the municipal clerks of Bethlehem Township, California Borough, Town of Clinton, Clinton Township, Franklin Township, Glen Gardner Borough, Hampton Borough, Highbridge Borough, Lebanon Township, Tewksbury Township, and Union Township, as well as other interested parties, and posted on the district website. Fire exits are located in the directions indicated. If alerted to fire, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to the nearest smoke-free exit. At this time, please silence all cell phones. Roll call.
Ms. Gagno? Mr. Chapman? Here. Dr. Danini?
Dr. Dini's here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Ms. Gallo?
Here.
Ms. Heinz?
Here.
Ms. Catran?
Here.
Mr. Lordy?
Here.
Mr. Isaac? McIsaac?
Nick Isaac, yes, here.
Ms. Reyes? Mr. Spanton?
Here.
Ms. Fiotto?
Close.
Close.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Selena?
Here.
You have a quorum.
And can we rise for the flag, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I please have a motion and a second to approve agenda item 4.1, our minutes from February 25th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
So that was Dan
Dan?
and Nicole.
Thank you.
So I'd like to make a couple comments on the minutes, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, I want to apologize for not being in last month's meeting. I had a prior engagement for business that I had to attend to, but I did have the opportunity to watch the meeting and as well as follow up on the new and old business that was done at the end. The first thing I wanted to say was I really appreciate Rich bringing up the question or the issue of the artificial coloring and the dyes that are being banned in various states and within the federal government. As Rich knows, I deal with it on a pretty regular basis, but so just so that this group knows, just for points of clarification, Red 3 has been banned by the federal government and has to be removed from everything by January 2027. So that's the big one, but there are a number of states that are looking to remove the variety of reds, yellows, blues, and greens as well. I won't give my point of view on it since I do it for a living, but I will say that it is before a number of states. And there are some additional ones, like in New Jersey, they have an act pending relating to also to titanium dioxide, which is a white color additive as well. So I do think it would be beneficial for us to speak with the food service provider about what they are doing to ensure that they're going to be compliant with whatever those laws end up shaking out to be. So I think it's a good idea. Then I wanted to comment on a couple of the other things that went on during the meeting. So I was really happy to see that the RFP for board attorneys were posted to the website. So that's very positive. And I understand that there's a cost.
Okay. I'm going to point of order. This is not agenda related. We're voting on the minutes.
Right.
We can bring that up under new business, old business, if you want to reflect and comment on that.
But I want to go on the record on some of the points that I wouldn't have the ability to comment on during the discussion.
I understand you were absent,
Mm-hmm.
but you can make those comments during new business or old business. Right now, we are taking the minutes.
The only issue that I have with that is that the public won't be here to hear those comments. So I think it's important
Again.
to hear them.
Again, Beth, I understand your concerns.
Mhm.
New business, old business. This is the time to take the minutes and the vote.
But I think there are some things that should be corrected in those minutes.
We can do that
Or a
during,
point
you,
should be done.
if you have a correction you'd like to amend in the minutes,
Mhm.
you can make a motion for an amendment.
I think the only comment that I want to make is that the comment and the allegations on confidentiality were improperly made during the discussion that took place at the end of the meeting.
Okay, are you amending the minutes?
Yes, I think that there shouldn't be
right,
allegations
you need-
against anyone.
you
So
need-
I seek to amend the minutes.
Beth,
Yes.
you need a motion
Mhm.
and a second
Okay,
if you're going to amend the minutes.
okay.
Would you like to amend the minutes?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Discussion on those minutes now?
So I'd like to make my comment, and that is that while I agree that confidentiality is important, I think that there were unfounded comments made about confidentiality at the meeting, and that it's not correct to make assumptions as to why the public was here. The public was here at the last two meetings to talk about something that was put on the agenda that was made publicly available. So I don't think it's right for us to make assertions about why the public was here and making comments, and therefore making allegations against the board members for having breached their obligations of confidentiality. It was inappropriate. And I also think, and maybe one last comment, that people who live in glass houses should not throw stones. That's it.
Anyone else have any other discussion? Okay,
One second. Okay, what, you wanted me to do a roll call on that?
yes, please.
Okay.
What exactly are we voting on?
The amendment to the minutes on the issues of confidentiality.
On those minutes, Doug, there is no statement as to, in public comment. If you look at the minutes, just basically a general summation.
It says only business or confidentiality.
But that was the discussion, wasn't it?
That was not.
I think that the question is though, that it's on there because it was a discussion. Regardless if she agrees with it or not, it was still on there.
And what would you like it to say? Instead of board confidentiality was a discussion item?
I think that there should just be a note that says that, there was a misrepresentation of the issue. That confidentiality was violated.
And you're saying, you're speaking to a board member publicly saying something
Yes.
was unconfidential or confidential?
That's correct. There was a discussion about confidentiality of board members, about leaking of information that takes place at these meetings, and that there was an assumption that the public was here at the prior two meetings because of a leak of confidential information, and that is not correct. There's no foundation for that. I just listened to it today,
And I'd have to,
again.
I would have to defer. I know the statement, Ms. Gallo had made a statement of confidentiality.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure, and I have not looked at that to say that it was an opinion, in her opinion.
I don't think she said it was in her opinion,
And
if
I
I
would
recall the
defer.
comments.
I think that comment I was reminding the board of confidentiality. So if that was in the minutes and that was the discussion, how can you amend it whether you agree with it or not? That was my comment, regardless who agrees with it or not. It was in new business or old business, and I was stating something that I was concerned about. I didn't call anybody out, I didn't call anybody names, but it was in the minutes and it was a discussion. So regardless if you're not happy with that comment, to remove it from the minutes because you don't agree with it is really, that doesn't make any sense.
You claimed
It's
that.
fair.
I did not claim anything.
All right.
I very clearly,
I'm going to
We
stop.
can vote on it.
I'm going to stop the conversation. And looking at it, it's very generic. So I don't see, if you want to continue this discussion, I mean,
That's fine.
I don't
Our
think.
meetings, I have a question for clarification. Our meetings are recorded. So although this is a, documentation of the meeting, if there was a misrepresentation in the meeting, then we should, in the documentation of the meeting, say that those opinions were made as a personal opinion and not those of the general board. So there should be a qualification because we have a full transcript.
Doug, I would ask that we review that. Can we table the minutes then till next month?
Sure. But you have a motion right now on the floor
To amend them.
to amend them. So you can either clear that, or you can make a motion to table
Yeah.
as well.
I would like to make a motion to table these so we can review the video, and I would speak with Doug as the board secretary, and then we can bring these minutes back to the table next month. Can I have a
Second that one too.
Thank you. Thank you.
But we have to vote on something.
Well, she could
We're voting
pull
on
her
it.
motion.
Yeah, I'll pull the motion,
Okay.
and then we vote on it in table, correct?
Okay, so if you pull and he agrees, then we can do that. You're okay? All right, so that comes off, comes out as a motion, and now we can vote on it.
Can we take a roll call on that, please?
Sure. Mr. Chapman,
I'm voting on
table.
Tabling.
Yes.
Dr. Dean.
Yes.
Did I get that?
Yes.
Ms. Gallup,
No.
Ms. Hens,
Yes.
Ms. Cotrina?
Yes.
Did I say it right?
It's Cochran, but it's okay. I'll answer then.
Say it again.
Cochran.
Cochran, thank you. Mr. Lordy?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Spanton?
Yep. Yes. Excuse me.
And Ms.
Beato,
Beato, thank you.
you got it.
And
Yeah,
you're
I
yes?
would like to table.
Say what?
Yes.
Yes. And Ms. Selena?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to board student representative report. I'm sorry. Okay. My apologies. Moving on to recognition of student achievements. And do we have Mr. Peterson is here? Mr. Peterson from Voorhees High School.
Good evening, everybody. The young man to my right is Christian Retchen. Christian is a sophomore at Voorhees High School. He is very active in his church. He is also involved in our marching band, track, Bible club, but the two things that we're here for tonight are fencing and Boy Scouts. So Christian came to me last year with an idea of building 2 carts for all the equipment. And if you've ever seen a fencing match up at Voorhees, there's a lot of these metal plates that have to go down on the floor, and really they would have to like physically just carry them before, and so all that equipment now can be stored on carts. So he recently completed his Eagle Scout project with 2 heavy-duty fencing carts, which he recently revealed at the fencing banquet. He also thanked everybody who financially contributed to the project so far, where it's not going to be really of any cost of his own. So many people volunteered money. Those who helped him building the carts, he also thanked, which included a fellow fencers, the troops, the scout troops, and other Voorhees seniors, to name a few. Christian worked this past Saturday morning to further reorganize the fencing closet. And I'll say with the job that he and his cohort did, which included his coach, his scout leader, fencers, a few scouts from the troop again, and they all gave him helping hands. He would be good to reorganize any of your closets or anything else that you might need to get done. That's how fantastic of a job he did. So congratulations on a job well done, and thank you for all that work for the fencing team. Now he's off to a scout meeting.
And now if we could have Dr. Cottrell come forward for North Hunterdon.
Thank you. Come on. So we have a little bit we're going to talk in more detail about, but I just want to set the scene. Imagine you're a teenager, and imagine it's your first day at a brand new high school. And imagine that high school is in a new country that you know nothing about. Imagine you don't speak the language. Well, then imagine you have a student with a smiling face who speaks your language, who's going to help you, and that's the student we're going to recognize today. Okay, so we're going to talk tonight about our growing ESL population at North Hunterdon High School. ESL stands for English as a Second Language Program, and we have one of our awesome multilingual learners who's a part of it. So as a bit of a background, since 2022, we have almost doubled the number of ML, which stands for multilingual students, and we currently have over 20 students at North Hunterdon High School who are either limited English proficiency or classified as multilingual learners. Some of these students arrive at North Hunterdon High School, speak no English, and they rely on their teachers, such as the amazing Miss Naples. We have Miss Welch in the back. We have Mr. Rapp, who helps hook them up with amazing folks like Genesis here to help navigate through the school day. And so what they do here at North is again, Miss Naples helps them learn how to read, listen, write, and speak in English, as well as understand the culture here at North Hunterdon High School and our community, while also celebrating their home languages and their home countries. Students are encouraged to take what we have as a seal of biliteracy, which means they are fluent in 2 languages, and we hope that they are able to accomplish that by their junior and senior year. The students are immersed in other classes throughout the day, so they spend some time with Miss Naples as well as Miss Welch, but then they also have their other classes throughout the day as well. And that is aided in part by, again, some amazing students like Genesis here. So I'm not going to steal all of Miss Naples' thunder. She is very passionate about it. I'm going to let her speak a little bit about Genesis.
Thank you, Dr. Cottrell. It is a pleasure to introduce 11th grader Genesis Palacios Arevalo, a remarkable student who enriches our school community through leadership and inclusivity. Genesis was born in Flemington, New Jersey, and lived there until she was 2.5 years old. At that time, her mother moved them back to El Salvador to be reunited with her brother, who still lived there. At around age 6, Genesis returned to Flemington and attended a multilingual program at the local Daymar school. However, being away from her family far away was a difficult transition, and she returned to El Salvador, where she lived until March 2024. Currently, North Hunterdon has 8 students in the ESL class. Genesis was part of this group when she came to North as a multilingual learner in March 2024. She has excelled in our community and now works with new multilingual students as they bridge the gap between cultures, helping them feel at home. Genesis guides the new students to their classes, shares in and outs of campus, and sits with them at lunch, ensuring each student feels welcome and included. Next year, Genesis plans to attend the Polytech Healthcare Science Program for Nursing and apply to nursing school for college. She hopes to use her English and Spanish language skills there to improve more lives. Genesis's kindness and dedication are an inspiration to our community, and it is an honor to recognize her at the board meeting this month. Congratulations, Genesis.
If you want to get a photo, go ahead. I think we need another photo here.
Congratulations. Okay, moving on, we will have our board student representatives report. Tonight, we will hear from Sarah Schwerk from Voorhees High School, as unfortunately, Shivam Patel could not join us for North Hunterdon High School, but we are happy to have Sarah here.
So starting off with some club activities we've had recently. Key Club just had their pancake breakfast on March 15th. It was a huge hit. our student high school integration program is currently hard at work planning both the 8th grade dance as well as next year's freshman orientation. Student council hosted a pickleball tournament on March 7th. It was a huge success. We had 24 teams sign up. I didn't play in it, but I went and watched, and I had a really good time watching. It was all students, except we had one team with 2 teachers. It was fun to watch. And then that same weekend, March 7th, our ski club had their trip up to Okemo in Vermont. In terms of sports, winter track finished up since we last met. Girls track participated at the Eastern State Indoor Championships on March 4th. The distant medley relay team placed second for 22nd PR, and Abbey-Sell tied for 5th in long jump. At the Meet of Champions, our girls 4x400 team competed, as well as Daphne Rosowski in the 3200. And for the boys at the Meet of Champions, we had Dylan Devine and Tony Yellow in the 1600. Spring sports coming up right now. We have our very first year. We're having a unified flag football team. We used to do a unified track in the spring, but this year we're trying out flag football along with our unified soccer in the fall and unified basketball in the winter. And then our other spring sports are all off to a really strong start. I know baseball, softball, girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse, and boys golf all had their first meets and scrimmages today. So all those sports are off to a good start. And then for our arts, preparations are underway for our production of Fiddler on the Roof, which will be held April 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. And just recently, on March 7th, our choir held their annual coffee house with the theme of Rock the Night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to Chief School Administrator's report. Dr. Burjax.
Thank you, Ms. Lino. First of all, I'm not going to do anywhere near the justice as Sarah did for North Hunterdon, but I'm trying to be a little North Hunterdon heavy because Shipping couldn't be here tonight. But first of all, I'd like to again congratulate our North Hunterdon boys wrestling team on being a boys and girls wrestling team on being celebrated by the Hunterdon County Board of Commissioners as state champions. They were able to show up at the courthouse there and get a picture. If anyone saw it in the paper, it was nice. And they actually did it with Del Val, so we had Del Val and North in the county, so they did it as a joint thing, and it was very nice. For those of you who were able to make it, North Hunterdon hosted Mamma Mia, which drew record crowds the first weekend of March with 3 sold-out performances. Audience members couldn't get enough of this fantastic show. Congratulations to the cast, the crew, the pit, the production staff of North Hunterdon's Mamma Mia, all the staff members that put their effort into it, and all the kids that put effort into it. It was a great presentation, and they did a great job. So. The Voorhees Counseling Office will be hosting its annual career fair on April 17th at Voorhees High School. If anyone is interested on the board, sometimes we do have board members participate in that. It's a great opportunity to sort of host a table. Students come around and ask about different careers for different industries that people represent. So. On March 6th, the North Hunterdon National Honor Society hosted its 21st annual Trivia Bowl to benefit St. Jude's Research Hospital. Thank you to all of those who participated. The event was a great success, raising nearly $6,000, and I believe the parents won, and there might be somebody at this table who was part of the parent team that won. So
Parents rule.
I won't call it. North Hunterdon also hosted their annual Spike for the Cure round robin volleyball tournament to raise money for charity. Teams competed both competitively and non-competitively and raised $24,650, which is being donated to the Jason P. Scheibel Memorial Fund. For those of you that don't know, Jason was a student here at North Hunterdon, and so those funds go to a fund that helps local students. The money raised is to provide non-medical support to area family members who have children with cancer. Thank you to our girls volleyball program, especially student leaders Keegan Hisner and Kat Wolf for organizing and running this entire event. It went off that hitch this year, and kudos to them for raising that kind of money, and a lot of effort goes into it. NJGPA, which is the Graduation Proficiency Assessment, was administered to juniors all last week. Makeup testing will be happening this week, but I think we had a pretty good turnout. Numbers look good, so I think we don't have as many makeups as we typically do. I also want to mention that Megan Lewick who is our County Teacher of the Year for Hunterdon County, is a North Hunterdon math teacher. Megan will be honored at the May 1st Hunterdon County School Boards Association meeting at the Mountain View Chalet. So any board members that are able to be there, that would be great to show support for Megan. I know Megan was also invited to speak at the Governor's Educator of the Year luncheon for the New Jersey County office. I haven't heard whether or not she is able to do that, commit to that, but hopefully she is there because it's always great to hear her speak. On March 5th, I was able to attend the Unsung Heroes at Flemington Raritan Middle School. It was a great event. Kim was there and Christina was there, and we recognized two students, Brooke Richards from North Hunterdon High School and Juliana Cometto from Voorhees. And basically these are students that went above and beyond for their communities, went above and beyond for their schools, and really just stuck out as someone who needed to be recognized. And this Unsung Hero is a great opportunity to do that. And this event this year was the most well-attended one I've been at. It was very well run. I'm looking forward to future ones, and we'll make sure we always have someone nominated. I do want to mention some housekeeping things. North has 3 unused emergency closing days, and Voorhees has 2. If you remember, Voorhees had to close on September 20th for the well pump wasn't working, and no water in the building, and then everybody closed on February 6th, I believe it was, for a snow day. So the plan right now, I will have an official calendar for the board to approve in April, because I don't want to do anything too soon because we're still in March. But if everything stays, if the weather stays as beautiful as it was today, the plan would be that both schools would be off on Friday, May 23rd and Monday, June 2nd. And then North would also be closed on Friday, May 30th, while Voorhees would remain in session. So that would make up all the days. And we chose those days to have the least impact on AP testing, all the different end-of-year testing, and also student events, because Voorhees actually has their senior trip on the 30th, so we didn't want to close school then for them. Last and certainly not least, I do want to mention that next week is our in-person stakeholder meetings for our strategic planning process. Tuesday, March 25th will be at North Hunterdon, and Thursday, March 27th at Voorhees. Both events start at 6 o'clock p.m. and will take place in the cafeterias at each school. If you have not RSVP'd yet, please do so. Right now we have 21 registered at North and 10 at Voorhees, so we could always use more. If you go to our website, there's a link for strategic planning, and in that link there is an RSVP link that you can fill out a Google form to let us know you'll be there. That way we're prepared for the size of a crowd that we'll have. So I encourage everybody to do that if they haven't yet, so that we can move forward with our strategic planning. I also have the report on harassment, intimidation, and bullying for this month. There were 3 incidences. 2 were unfounded, and 1 was founded for all. And we need a motion to affirm the incidents from last month.
I need a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
May I just back up one? Was that Tara?
Yes.
You moved it.
I did.
Sorry, Doug,
And I
I should have,
got the second.
sorry, I forget. Can everybody turn their name plates to
Well,
Doug?
actually, it was a hearing issue.
Okay. Because I know he can't see him where it's new. Sorry, Doug, thank you.
Okay, and then the monthly school reports are there for your information, if there's any questions.
Rich, could we just mention that at North is the Prism concert this Thursday?
Oh, sure, yes.
Right, so the Prism concert, annual concert held at North, starts at 8 o'clock. It's going to be a great event. So if you can make it, terrific.
It is.
This Thursday?
This Thursday at North, 8 o'clock in the main gym.
In main gym.
Yeah.
Thank you for reporting
Rich, I
that.
have a question for you. You said 2 were founded and 1 was unfounded?
No, 2 unfounded and 1 were founded.
Okay, I'm confused because there's only 2 total on here. Am I misreading this?
These are the ones that I'm reporting to you tonight.
Yep.
These are the last ones.
Last month is what we're voting on.
Yeah, what you're voting on here is last
I
month.
understand. Okay.
So I reported to you. Next month, you'll be voting on these.
Gotcha. I understand. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, moving on, School Board President Report. I'd like to announce annual budget hearing and regular meeting for April is scheduled on the 29th at 7 p.m. here in the district office. And I also want to chime in and echo what Dr. Burjak said about the Unsung Heroes presentation. It was fantastic. I think I've gone every year, made my commitment, what Tara usually goes. And this year, they did a phenomenal job with the candidates. I mean, the students, it was amazing. And I think half of that gym or the auditorium was filled. So if you haven't gone as a board member, you should go. And to see them, they deserve that recognition. So, thank you. Moving on, we are now ready for public comment. During this portion of the meeting, the public is invited to address the Board of Education with comments. You are requested to sign the register provided for this purpose and to state your name, municipality of residence, group affiliation if applicable, and direct your comments to the school board president. While all comments will be considered by the Board of Education and a response may be forthcoming if and when appropriate, individual school board members may not respond to the speakers at the time of their appearance. The public comment period will be a maximum of 30 minutes in length unless there are unusual circumstances. You will be allocated 3 minutes to speak, and no one will be permitted to speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. Please keep your comments respectful and non-defamatory and maintain a level of decorum appropriate for a public meeting where students may be present and in the audience.
I have two things that I'd like to talk about this evening. The first one's very short. The recent opinion piece in the Hunterdon Review. Oh, my name?
Municipality,
Sorry,
please.
Philip Traeger, Clinton Township.
Thank you so much.
The recent opinion piece in the Hunterdon Review describing outside influence working to influence our board included Mr. Lordy merely for attending prior meetings with certain individuals. First, his votes to date have been anything but extreme and well considered and evidence-based. Guilt by association is a very dangerous path and should be avoided. Okay, second thing is a little bit more involved. Over the past 3 years, the size of the North Hunterdon Marching Band has been decreasing on a year-by-year basis. It used to be 50 to 60 members, including support like cheerleaders and flag wavers and the other parts aside from the actual players on the field. Last year's, it went down to 40 to 45. And this year, there's only 30. I have to tell you, going to all the football games this past year, 30 members of a marching band is sort of not a marching band anymore. It's like a pep band that usually plays in the stands. So one of the things that I wanted to point out as a possible cause, but really needs to be further investigated by the school administration, is there was a North Hunterdon festival where the high school goes out to the sending districts trying to recruit students to join the marching band at the high school. So I learned that the last festival here at the high school, the Clinton Township Middle School, which is probably the largest sending school in the district, had nobody attend the festival. So I took it upon myself to go to a lower school board meeting and raise that issue, under the false assumption that there was inadequate support at the middle school. The superintendent contacted me and said nothing could be further from the truth, and that the reason there was nobody from the Clinton Township Middle School is that they didn't get notified soon enough so that they could bring the issue before the board and get all of the permissions where they could get a bus. And I don't have to explain to you what it takes to get kids to move from one venue to the next. You can't do it at the last minute. So for that reason, nobody showed up to the band festival. So I don't know exactly what the reasons are why the marching band has gone down to 30 members. But I don't think it can go lower than 30 members and still be a marching band, which would be a great loss for the school and for the football program and the kids who might want to actually play in the marching band. So I just wanted to bring that up to make sure that the board is totally apprised of what the potential situation is and that it needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a long name. Good evening. My name is Carol Bisiotis. I live in the town of Clinton. I'd just like to take a moment to recognize one of the bus drivers at North, Mr. Rich, as he's referred to by my children. He's a former Marine and wonderful human. I'm not sure if you're all aware, but one day last week, on their routinely traveled route home, the bus had brake issues and the brakes were not working properly. Mr. Rich promptly and safely pulled the bus to the side of the road and radioed back to, home headquarters that there was a brake failure and needed another bus to assist in getting the students home. Mr. Rich remained calm, communicated to the kids what was happening, and when the next bus arrived, he switched over with that driver to ensure that each student was brought home safely. I had the pleasure of running into Mr. Rich at 6:15 in the morning a few days later at the gas station while he was fueling up his bus for the day. I only recognized him based on the info that my children had provided to me, his Marine hat. I introduced myself and thanked him for getting the kids home safely and how much we appreciated him driving our children to and from school each and every day. This incident hits home a little more as there was a tragic bus accident only a few days earlier on the Garden State Parkway. Please recognize Mr. Rich for his dedication, ability to realize and act quickly, and getting our children to and from school safely. Thank you. I don't know his last name, sorry.
Do you know him, Brenda?
If he gave out gifts in years past, I heard about it.
Good evening, I'm Amy Barrett. I'm a resident of Highbridge. I've lived in Highbridge for 37 years. My children went to Voorhees, and I taught for 17 years in one of the North Hunterdon-Voorhees sending districts. I care about the quality of education in our community. I'm not an outside interest. Since I'm one of the people who made pointed remarks last month, I just want to assure Mrs. Gallo that everything I said on February 25th was taken from the public board discussion at the January 28th meeting. I attended that meeting, rewatched portions of it on video, and took notes. On several occasions, Kim Salino and Nicole Gallo have stated during open sessions that other board members are subjects of an ethics complaint. This complaint was filed by Dan Kleinman. Mr. Kleinman is not a resident of the North Hunterdon-Voorhees community. He's an outsider who writes a blog attacking librarians and library associations. He's being sued for defamation by at least one librarian. You can read more about him in Guy Citron's excellent article recently published in the Hunterdon Review. Kleinman celebrated filing his ethics charge against our board members on his public blog and posted what he said was the entire ethics complaint. I read it. I read it because Mrs. Salino and Mrs. Gallo have claimed in public remarks that some of their fellow board members may have a conflict of interest with the rest of the board because they are defending themselves against Kleiman's complaint. Kleiman's complaint is frivolous. The complaint accuses our board members of voting against banning the book. Let's talk about it. He claims they did this because they surrendered their independent judgment to the American Library Association, which he describes as a partisan special interest group. But he offers no proof of why any board member voted for or against the book. He also accuses some board members of stating that they do not support book banning, either as board candidates or as private citizens. That's it. That's the gist of a complaint that mostly rehashes Kleiman's past attacks against librarian Martha Hickson and the American Library Association. So please, Mrs. Salino and Mrs. Gallo, stop insinuating that some board members have violated board ethics and that the board attorney has a conflict of interest in defending them. You may disagree on whether or not the book should have been banned, but following board process by voting for or against banning a book is not an ethics violation. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Harlan Ettinger. I've been a Highbridge resident and taxpayer for more than 37 years. Tonight, I have a complaint and a request. This board's meetings are routinely contentious and protracted. In February, the meeting went on for nearly 2.5 hours before you retired into executive session. If you haven't noticed, I'm an old man. I can't stay here to observe your meetings for more than 3 hours without a restroom break. And there are no public restrooms in this building. When you return from executive session, and much of the public is no longer in the room, some board members seem emboldened by our absence to say something interesting. I know this happens because after leaving to find the restroom, I join many others watching your proceedings online. Board members may be aware that there's a video feed recording you. But I think it's important that you feel our presence in the room when you're doing the public's business. So, my request, I implore you to move the board's public meetings to a facility that has public restrooms. Thank you.
Sandra Marzo, Franklin Township. I haven't been here in a while. First, I would like to say thank you to everybody for last year. I pleaded the board multiple times at multiple meetings for taking care of the previous superintendent who was not coming to board meetings over and over again. Obviously, you can't say whatever decision you made, but I appreciate it. I also want to thank you, Dr. Bergakis, for everything that you did in his place and for taking his place now. I truly appreciate it. I'm a former teacher myself, and for those of you who are new, I am a daughter of a superintendent. My dad is retired. He was a superintendent in North Carolina of like 21 schools. So I have a very unique perspective here. And I agree wholeheartedly with Amy Barrett with what she has to say. The stuff that happens here, I get school boards there's school board politics, there's school politics. I grew up as a child listening to it, so when I became a teacher, I fully expected that there would be, school politics within schools. Administrations would be different from one school to another. It's on a whole other level. Some of you know I help campaigns in my area. If you don't realize it by now, I do. I was offered when you ran videos of you bullying students. I didn't take them up on it when you were running. Now I wonder if I should have. I know of somebody watching a private Facebook group that our president, Salino, and Vice President Gallo belong to with the board president of Franklin, Caroline Leguinco, and her husband belong to with, what's his name? The reverend who shows up here during book banning. Now, I don't watch it, but somebody else in Franklin has access to your private, tiny, little board, your Facebook group, where you guys chit-chat before book bans come up, and has taken screenshots. I'm aware of this. Now, you can look at me like I'm crazy, but I asked this person last summer, is this person on the board in the group? Is this person? Is this person? Is this person who shows up at book banning meetings that speaks? Are they in the group? And they said yes, 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 or no, no, no. So you want to talk about potential ethics violations? Really? Really? Come on. And I watch the meetings online, and you guys argue with your fellow board members, and that you want to be treated with respect. You gotta treat them with respect. I mean, it's like teachers with their classrooms. They gotta teach. It's a matter of how you command the room. You can't just do it with an iron fist and expect everyone to bow down. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. You're gonna make enemies on your own board, in the public, and then when they laugh at you or heckle you or get mad at you, that's what happens. You want to be respected? Act in a respectable manner.
Are there any other public comments?
Jennifer Cusack of Highbridge. I also want to speak on the lack of access to public restrooms during these meetings. These meetings are supposed to be open for the public, and it's almost impossible for the entire public to sit through. I have multiple times, I mean, you've seen me here on a regular basis, as a parent of a kid who used to go to Voorhees, it's important for the public to have the option to actually listen to these whole meetings, here. And yeah, we can do it online, but these are supposed to be open to the public. They're supposed to be ADA accessible, and not having an option to go to a bathroom when a meeting takes 3-4 hours is basically making it inaccessible to the public. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marina Bartelli. I live in Franklin Township. I just want to say that it is inspirational each time I come to a board meeting and I hear the students being recognized and the activities that they're up to. And they are teenagers, they're minors. Teenagers don't always get the best rap. I myself, having been a former teenager, many of us here having been former teenagers, right? But truly, when I get to hear, and the community gets to hear, what our teens, our community here at North Hunterdon-Voorhees are up to, and the good that they put out into the world, the basic moral compass they exhibit of decency to other human beings with a baseline of respect. The young lady who played a part in welcoming other students who were newcomers to a new place. It's inspirational. And I would encourage all of us as adults in this room, and I do not exclude you board members, certainly, to take a page from the book of those kids who are really up to something in this world, and to not only pay attention to the fact that they are leading by example, and checking ourselves and seeing how we are leading by example. That's the way it's supposed to be, because we're adults, we have more life experience. But honestly, and I'm not saying that we don't, but it's always good to be self-reflective, and the kids in this community and this high school are just amazing. So I just wanted to say that. And the faculty and teachers too, and the advisors. I don't want to leave them out. But really, this is more of what we need in the world, is the baseline of compassion, respect, and caring for one another. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments at this time? I would like to note to Mr. Harlan Ettinger, and that was Miss Jennifer Cusack. We do have restrooms here, and they're accessible. They are just behind us, and you are welcome to use those restrooms. We have to have those. We have to have that in order to hold the meeting here. So I just wanted to note that. Okay, we'll move on then. If there's no more public comment, we will move on to curriculum, instruction, and technology. Mr. McIsaac?
So the curriculum committee met on the 12th last week. There were a few different topics that we discussed. We did talk a little bit about the advantages of having the video and transcripts that we've been employing at committee meetings that allow folks to go back and review information or answer questions. The topic then shifted to absenteeism. There had recently been a district notification to parents about reducing absenteeism as part of the district's broader policy to bring chronic absenteeism down. There was some discussion about a change in practice over time that was allowing parents to submit notes for student absences, where in the past it was solely a doctor's note. It was a shift that the district had made to sort of be more accommodating to diverse needs, but it is just a topic of conversation as the district tries to strategize what can reduce overall absenteeism, and those parent communications were part of that strategy. Next, we reviewed enrollment trends, and some questions were addressed about how we list rising ninth graders, because one of the things we see is that we have students de-enrolling or transferring out at the beginning of the year. And that was sort of explained that there are instances where students who are 8th graders in our sending districts initially enroll or signal, even if they maybe had no intention to come to the public school because they're going to private school or doing something else. So there tends to be a little bit of a surge in students being de-enrolled or transferring at that time. It was also noted that students who are not part of our sending district but are eligible to participate in our sports programs, once those seasons end, those students also must be unenrolled. So sometimes what looks like little spikes or surges in students transferring out or being de-enrolled is often explicable through those phenomena. We also looked at home instruction data, and really the biggest outcome of that was continuing to explore strategies and to understand and ultimately address chronic absenteeism. The next topic was about the seal of biliteracy. Rich Brone presented data on the seal of biliteracy, explained that that seal is promoted through the World Language Program, and in recent years we've seen a surge of students achieving biliteracy because their native home language makes them biliterate. And actually we had a great example of that tonight with someone like Genesis, who's working in, who's a student in that exact capacity. As Rich was explaining some of the biliteracy trends, we had seen a drop during COVID. We also looked at the fact that there's a discrepancy between the two buildings, with Voorhees having a lower number of students achieving the seal of biliteracy. But part of that phenomenon was explained by the fact that because Voorhees has very high enrollment of students in our academies, upwards of 25% of that building, I believe the number was, and the academies, because of their rigorous four-year science curriculum, often makes it more complicated for those students to potentially achieve that high level of secondary language attainment. A third complicating factor is that our K-8 sending districts often struggle to provide world language instruction, struggling to get staffing or maintain programs, which then often hampers the subsequent attainment that those students can achieve if they're having to start here as like a level 1 language learner. And again, as I think Dr. Cottrell talked about it, we've had a lot more native speaking students in recent years getting recognized for those seal of biliteracy numbers, which is a great recognition of that skill set for sure. The administration will continue to articulate with the sending districts, exploring shared service opportunities where students can build capacity in that secondary language, and obviously continue to review that data as well. The last item was a review of the standardized assessments happening currently and ahead. That includes the Access for ELS testing that's done each year. The school is monitored and is required to demonstrate that their ML students, their multi-language learner students, are in fact improving year upon year in their language development. As was shared by Rich just last week, we had the NHV BOE for the juniors. If you recall, there had been in prior years some debate about that cut score. They are maintaining a 725 cut score. Also, if you recall, I think last year we had a 93% success rate in that NHV BOE, and so hopefully those positive trends that we've seen there continue. Additionally, though we'll get a separate report on AP participation and achievement, we have over 500 students. I guess this is looking at the last year, Rich, was it right? Yeah, okay. So we had over 500 students, 287 at North, 233 at Voorhees, who took over 1,000 exams. I believe we did get a level of recognition for that participation. I don't remember exactly which level it was. I think it was both schools. Okay, both schools, yeah. And then one other shifting phenomenon is the exams are in the process of being all digital starting this year. And then looking ahead, we have the NJ SLA coming up for freshmen. That's in ELA and Algebra 1. And one of the things the district will continue to look at is the structuring of our algebra sequencing and the shift from a 2-year course to a 1-year course, as well as some algebra extension courses that are affording opportunities to students who, for whom math is more challenging and move a little more gradually through the sequence. The last item was that the common assessments have now rolled up to grade 10, and that's something that we'll continue to look at and follow the trends of those cohorts and correlate those performance data to these other external assessments that we monitor as well. Beyond that, I think the committee was recommending accepting all of the information there. I don't know if there's any questions on anything. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We will have, I need a motion and a second to approve 10.1 home instruction.
So moved.
Second.
That was Beth and Brian.
Got it.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Thank you. Okay, moving on to Policy and School Security Committee report.
Sure. So the Policy and Security Committee met on March 10th. All were in attendance except for Brian Chapman. We, as this, we're reviewing the New Jersey School Board policy reviews. We did 3,000s and 4,000s. We had some discussions, specifically about 3515 in detail. We're going to review our code of conduct. It was the policy. It was just. I'm sorry. Let me just read this out. Comfortable with wording that the contrary to how we run the district. We discussed policy 3515 in detail, and we're going to review our code of conduct and our acceptable use policy if necessary. It was surrounding cell phone pictures and taking videos and pictures. So we had a discussion on that. We briefly discussed regulation 6163, but decided that we were going to talk about that next month since it was in the 6,000s. In addition, we also discussed 4123 from the Jersey School Boards in regards to it was the policy that we were changing the language because it was, the policy stated completed years of higher education institution to be eligible for employment as instructional aid. We're going to change the language to 60 credits from a higher institution as a requirement for a substitute certification. We're also retaining the language that will allow us to employ an instructional aid after successfully passing the state professional test and obtaining that certificate in lieu of substitute certificate. So the action items are the change of language in 4123, research AUP, and the code of conduct related to 3515. There was other business regarding the security portion of our committee. Clinton Township PD was notified that we wouldn't need an officer at every meeting, just upon request. The Clinton Township Police did offer an officer to be present for free of charge for 2 hours, but it was decided that it was better to have the officer there when necessary upon request. One of the reasons that this decision was made because 2 hours offered was not part of the proposed contract. This was an offer made outside of the constraints of the contract. And that is it. Any questions?
Can you elaborate on what you were talking about for 3515? I wasn't sure what you were saying. It was code of contact and cell phone and pictures. I wasn't quite sure what you were referencing.
It was the name of the, it's a personal electronic devices. It was the wording in there that specified, it was kind of contradictory, or not contradictory, it was also covered in the code of conduct when it came to the cell phone use, so we were looking at the language to see if it coincides with our code of conduct.
Just if I could add to Jessica, we were talking about, there's a lot in there that's very outdated about pagers, that nobody uses pagers anymore, and it was really there when drug dealers would get in touch with kids via pagers. But as it relates to the other kind of devices. There were things like discussion about essentially drones and things like that too. So we were just kind of, what we wanted to do is just see if we could eliminate it, cover it with the code of conduct as well as the acceptable use policy as it relates to the various electronic devices. That was really the point of the discussion.
And then, when you talked about the security portion, I know there was the article that was referenced in the Hunterdon Review where someone took pictures of our librarian and there was a reference to the security.
The article that you were speaking to, that you sent an email to me, that is not an agenda item. She reported out on policy. You had a question on...
It's security.
She reported out on 3515. You just asked about the code of conduct and our acceptable use policy.
Right.
That's what
and
she
now
just
I'm
reported
asking
out.
about the security portion of the meeting where we had someone of the public state that we had unauthorized access to our building.
Okay.
And that's security.
Again, I'm going to defer. We are speaking to the agenda items only. If you'd like to speak to that, you could speak to that during new or old business. And you can also speak to me. I'd be glad to speak to you about that conversation because you and I had an email.
I know we had an email,
about
but I'd
that.
like an answer to it.
Absolutely. We can discuss that. That is not for the board table. It's not an agenda item.
Then I'll bring it up in new business after the fact.
So are there any other discussion on policy?
No, I do just want to thank the committee for putting together, it looks like as you're working through policy by policy, I see you have the opportunity to sort of add notes or clarification there, which is very helpful for someone not on the committee to be able to come in and sort of read those things that are sort of surfacing to that level of questioning or exploring. So thank you for doing that. It's very helpful. And I don't know if you've gotten, I suspect it might be a later portion of school board's policy manual, but perhaps, do we know if school boards has a guidance policy just regarding artificial intelligence? I know Strauss-Esme had pushed out some model guidance documents. I wasn't sure if school boards had something equivalent. And I know sometimes those policies can land under acceptable use, code of conduct, and other places. And maybe it's just, you may not even be to where it might be in the policy manual, but that would be something I'd be curious in learning about.
I will note that. We have not gotten to that point, but okay. I will note that, and I'm seeing Dr. Burjax is noting that as well. Thank you. Moving forward on Finance, Facilities, and Transportation Committee report. Dan?
Okay. The first agenda item was the budget. We talked about the budget, and we reviewed the breakdown of the budget. So one of the items was the state aid was released at the end of February, and it was favorable to us in the district. We got an increase of $217,000 above the prior year, and that we were expecting it to be flat. So that was a good thing. There was a small decrease in the, is it SEMI or SEMI funding, from $20,000 to $3,300. Which is a minimal impact, but based on that, we reviewed the budget, and based on us using a 2% tax levy, and then the healthcare waiver, which allows us, because of healthcare costs that increased 10% for medical and 7% for prescription. And please chime in if I'm saying something incorrect. We are able to increase that tax levy to 2.66%. Based on that, with the 2.66, we are still anticipating a shortfall of $216,255. But Rich explained and Doug explained that there are provisions in place to manage that shortfall. There's some attrition. There's a couple of positions that are people, I guess, retiring. Is that? And then we won't be needing those positions to be replaced. And the discussion was around the budget was to present it to us, and what we're voting on tonight is to allow Doug to forward this to the county for their review. Next month will be a detailed presentation and breakdown of the entire budget, and that's when we actually vote on the budget. This is just to forward it to the county for their review and see if they have any comments or any concerns about the budget itself. One of the things that, the major impact to our budget is the salaries and healthcare. That's about 70 or 75%, I believe, of total expenditures. With our personnel increase of 3.5%, and also increases from transportation, that's why the administration felt the need that we need to increase the tax levy to 2.66%. The additional thing, and something I had requested that we might potentially have next month, is I think you remember years ago when they reduced the state reduced the funding to the district. Katie had prepared kind of looking out into the future, 5 years, I believe it was, a projection and pointing out that because of those reductions, if we don't take the tax levy, this is the impact as we move forward year after year, and so you end up 3-4 years out, you hit this fiscal cliff where you end up crashing and having to make some severe programmatic and potentially personnel changes to avoid that. That's the point of this tax levy. No one likes the fact that we have to raise the taxes this much, but to keep ahead of any changes in the future or reductions in personnel or programs, this is what the administration is suggesting. At the meeting, we were a little short on Cynthia had to leave because of personal reasons, and Brian wasn't able to attend. He had reported that he wasn't able to be there. So also Rich had asked for some additional information. He wanted to, before he could actually, so we didn't have a consensus at the meeting because obviously a lot of us weren't there. But that is the suggestion of the administration, and that we vote for approval of the budget as is, to send it to the county. And again, remember, we have next month to see the full detail, work through that, and actually we still have the opportunity to make changes next month if needed.
I just have a question. In looking at the budget for this is for next year, so have we gotten any feedback from our food service provider about impact of the tariffs on the cost of food and whether they're going to push that back on the district or onto the students?
So we haven't had any information from them. What I can tell you is food services runs as an enterprise account. I'm using the right word.
Correct.
So basically it's a separate set of accounts, right? And so the idea is that the company that we contract with, a certain portion of their profits comes back into our coffers. That's what we use to buy equipment and things like that in the cafeteria as they need to be. And we always try to keep that about even. So whatever profit the district makes off of that, if we weren't going to make as much profit, it could affect purchasing some of our equipment and things like that for the year.
Okay.
But we haven't had any impact as of today.
Okay. I know they're still kind of up and down, but I think it is something that we should try to monitor.
Yep.
Especially if you're counting on profit to pay for certain things that were outside of the budget. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
And Dan, just to be clear, so the 2% cap, I recall, I think was put in at about around 2011-ish or something like that, that The idea was that if districts could maintain 2% or lower, they wouldn't have to go out for a vote. But in recognition of the fact that since 2011, certain expenditures and just the cost of living and so many other things have obviously are more than 2%. The law allows for certain allowances that allow you to flex above that 2%.
Correct.
While still meeting the state's definition of fiscal responsibility and thus still not having to go out for a vote.
Right.
And then from the materials that were in the folder, I know there were a few expenses that were shared there specifically. I guess we had gotten notification of, what was it, the electric utility
Yes,
going
yes,
up
thank you.
$200,000?
Well, it's a 20% increase.
A 20%
Yeah, which
increase,
would-
okay.
And the impact, but it is a $200,000.
$200,000 ticket right there.
Yeah.
And then obviously, personnel, staffing, and benefits, often the lion's share of the budget, and obviously a lion's share of this budget. I know, even though I didn't participate in the negotiations proceedings, there was a sincere effort on the part of that team, and we voted on those contracts, obviously with an eye towards keeping and retaining and attracting staff. I think there was also some recognition that we were starting to lose staff to other districts and that the salary guide needed to be a little more competitive to stave that off a little bit. The transportation increase, I didn't know if I couldn't find the number on that. Like, is there a percentage increase in transportation that we're aware of?
10%.
It's 10%, okay, that was the one. I knew it was out there. I couldn't remember exactly what the percentage was. And then I guess the other thing that, if I recall correctly from last year, was the first time I sat on the budget process. I think last year was the last time that we had any banked cap to use.
That is
and so
correct.
we have expired that, and we currently no longer have any banked cap.
That's correct.
Which I know at that time was part of the thing that enabled us to deliver that budget last year. I don't know, like going forward, when schools have things like bank cap, or when schools have things like significant capital reserves, what become the strategies to put the district on a sound fiscal footing? Because I think all of us have probably been paying attention to what's happening just down the road, where they went out for a 6% increase, it didn't pass, and now you're looking at massive staff layoffs, school security officer layoffs, the removal of sports programs, just a lot of painful decisions. So I guess I'm just sort of, from a business administrator standpoint, strategically, what are the moves that we can make in the next few years going forward to put us in the best position?
I think Mr. Spanton's, view of having the 5-year look ahead is a good tool to start with. But then as we operate, because in order to regenerate that capital reserve, that's a real critical part for you avoiding referendum down the road. But the way you do that, you must generate surplus, and which means, and a surplus is a good thing from a standpoint is that you're pushing a lot of what you generated last year into the next year, and you hope to continue to do that, because then that gives you some opportunity to potentially put that into capital reserve, depending on what your other expenses are. And as you know, special education can go through the roof one year, and the next year it dives. So you take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves, but be mindful that they are out there and they can occur, so that you can be in a position as a board to make those deposits into capital reserve. And the bank cap, that has to do with, if you have a health care waiver and you don't use it all, then it goes into bank cap. If you have an enrollment increase, that's the other place where you can generate some additional tax revenue. And if you don't use that, that goes into bank cap. Then you have a 3-year time period where you can utilize that before it expires.
Well, it's just, because I was watching, and obviously being at Hunterdon Central and aware of their presentation, and two of the things they specifically highlighted was the fact that they were still able to employ banked cap, and that they had massive capital reserves earning interest that I guess are being deployed sort of strategically. I guess with like the building the capital reserve, you're talking about that like a 5-year lookout sort of process where you're trying to do it a little bit each year.
Right. Look at your revenues and what you anticipate your expenditure going to be over the next 5 years, and see if we reach a point where those intersect, or if you can keep that revenue growing, then you can make deposits in the capital reserve, which will then help you avoid referendums down the road.
Right. And then in terms of student enrollment, I mean, I know across the county, student enrollment has either tended to be flat or declining. I think it's somewhat similar here, except for the fact that we have the academy programs and the launch of the Polytech program that potentially promises to bring students from all over the county here. But does that work in the same way that you're saying in terms of revenue being potentially gained, or that's different because that's an agreement with?
I mean, you would have revenues for those incoming students, but they don't necessarily add to your student count that we report to the state for the purposes of funding.
Right.
So you get the revenue coming from the other school districts when they come into our academies, but you don't get to count on which could potentially lead to additional state aid or a waiver.
And then Rich, I guess not having been here during Dan was referring to, the 7 years of state aid cuts that sort of every district knew were coming. I don't have the look back sense on that, Rich, to know the degree to which deliberate things like the development of the academy programs, or deliberate things like the Polytech program, or bringing in Bloomsbury as in a send-receive relationship. Am I right in assuming that each of those was somewhat strategic in terms of managing all of this and attracting new populations?
So yes, I would be, it wasn't done for fiscal reasons, to be perfectly honest. It was done for what was good for our kids. Having the programs in our buildings, we thought was better for our students.
For our home students?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
They could take advantage of these programs that were run through Polytech, so it was really student-led, the decisions. But it has had a financial impact, and that financial impact has been positive in some areas. And, it's always a fine line of, we get a percentage of the tuition that Polytech charges, credited back to us if it's our student. And again, whether or not that is covering all of our expenses, that's what we're currently negotiating with Polytech right now. So we can make sure that we have a clearer delineation of the expenses between our district and their district.
Because it's interesting seeing it from this side, because I know the other county high schools are viewing it as they're losing students and they're losing revenue that follows the student to us, which is a challenge that they face. I guess the challenge we face is we get these new students, we're providing the lion's share of the instructional program for them, and as you said, at a negotiated rate with the Polytech regarding the academies and the programming, but it's always a fine balance of every expense and staffing and everything that goes with that.
Yeah, and again, those programs, we have been fortunate enough that they have helped us fiscally and helped us keep our numbers up. Even though we don't get that state aid, our numbers are still about the same. We've been able to maintain the level of staffing and things of that nature. But the 7-year look back, that did hurt that surplus rollover that we count on every year. We expect a certain amount of money to be rolled over from this year's budget into next year, and our budget starts there. If we don't have that, as we talked about, there comes a point where, again, we're eating away at that slowly, no matter what, because even 2.66 is not going to keep up with the expenses next year. Right, so that has
to be at a 20% electrical hike.
Exactly. So that is going to be, part of that is going to be eaten up with some creative budget cuts that we're doing and trying to just move some things around and make sure that we're being fiscally responsible. The other part is going to mean that there's going to be a little less of that budgeted surplus. But the more we eat into that budgeted surplus, the harder it's going to be and the quicker we're going to hit that spot where we're going to have to make some very tough decisions.
Or go out for the referendum.
Yes, or go out for a referendum. But again, if we can avoid that for 6, 7, 8 years, the funding models might be different.
Right.
So it might not. We might be able to survive this and get through it. If we eat away at that too quickly and we end up using up that surplus in 3 or 4 years, I don't anticipate that we'll be able to survive that without a referendum.
And I thought I had, and for some of the folks on sort of the legislative councils, where is the conversation on the 2% cap and legislative reconsideration in recognition that districts are up against increasing costs in everything, yet having to operate within this sort of 2% squeeze? I feel like, and Tara, I can't remember if you reported out on anything like that, or Kim, if there's anything that you've seen on the county level, where boards are advocating to the state and saying, we need you to look at this.
It's discussion. I know it was at the.
It keeps coming up.
It keeps coming up,
Definitive.
but nothing definitive.
So the state does put out programs like last year. There was a program where we would have been able to, as our district, after the budget was already passed, if you remember, there was a discussion about, I can't remember the name of the bill, but the state allowed us to go out and raise the tax levy by a certain percentage based on how much you lost from S2.
Right, that's what
I believe it was in between 8 and 9%. We could have increased our tax levy on top of what we had already increased it last year.
But we couldn't.
We talked about it as a board and decided, we didn't want to do that. And again, it was after the budget was already approved. We already had things balanced. We didn't need that then, but there are mechanisms that might come out in the future.
Okay. And that's kind of in recognition of the shortfall districts have been receiving for X number of years, as a way to at least give you an avenue to try and access.
Again, this was last year, so it's not an option this year, but last year it was an option after the budget season because there were districts that were drastically cut with state aid. And they were trying to basically replace that state aid. So.
Okay.
And then one of the things we did do to minimize the impact was we had monies left over from a referendum that things came under budget, and we opted to give it back to the taxpayers as opposed to putting it towards bank cap or anything else, with the thoughts that we were being fiscally responsible, and if we ever have to in the future go out for a referendum for things, the public knows, our taxpayer base knows that we're only coming out if we need it, and that's what we did that time. We were under budget on a lot of the projects that we went out for a referendum, and we had money back, and that's what allowed us not to have a higher tax levy. Was it two years ago, was it?
Yeah.
I think 2 years
I remember.
ago. So, we don't want to have to ever go out, but when we went out in the past, they did well with the RFPs. We came under budget, we didn't spend it all, we got the projects done, and then we returned it to the taxpayers, so we didn't have to do a tax increase because of state funding and federal funding being cut.
But I guess the other strategy that other districts may have employed is to not give it back.
Right.
To maintain it as
Capital.
and then to earn interest and to position themselves more favorably. Okay.
Which is my question. Doug, I don't know if you could state to this. I don't know when the last time it has been. When have we moved monies from our capital reserve to our interest, to capitalize on income interest rates? I'm seeing a zero balance, and that's what we're talking to. And I happened to attend Hunterdon Central's presentation last night. It was an hour-long presentation, and it checked every box, and stirred more questions for me. We're out of bank cap. We're looking at our capital reserve. I'm looking at the interest. There's none. Have we been doing that? Are we?
Yeah, here's my observation of how your district is run, is that you have one account that all of the funds are aggregated, and that account does draw interest, and it draws a significant amount. In fact, Katie put $150,000 of interest into the revenue side of the budget for the coming year. So it is you may have looked at a report that it wasn't allocated to that book account, but it is in the bank account, and that's we do have the money. It's just not necessarily recorded as coming from capital.
Do we do multiple investments where we might pull out monies, and we might have a 6-month CD, a year CD, where we can make money on that?
Not I'm aware of.
We had a discussion, I remember with Katie, and I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of concern about risk, obviously. We don't want to risk the money, so there's only certain things we can go. I don't, maybe we can find out what.
Well, we can invest in CDs, but we cannot, go into mutual funds.
Right.
It has to be very.
Bitcoin?
What's that?
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, there you go.
That's real dangerous.
So it's very restrictive because it is
Yeah.
taxpayers' money that we're, responsible for, and so we're not allowed to take a lot of risk with that, but we try to maximize our earnings. But CDs would be an avenue that we could look at as, for that's just a timing issue then, is to make sure, do we have the funds available for us to operate, pay our bills on an ongoing basis.
And I just noted that you were saying, Brendan, at Hunterdon Central, for the last 6 years, they've been under the 2% cap. They've made some significant changes. She does project, the VA there does project as what Dr. Berjaks and what Dan is speaking to, making a projection. It was really spot on, and they got about, don't quote me, I don't have it in front of me, the number was a little bit more than our $217,000 that we got back from state. They got a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And they're like we are, the students, they're worrying about Polytech now coming here. They actually have 171 students.
Right.
So, there's just ways of doing things differently, and I'm just questioning what
Well, that's kind of why I was asking Tara about the capital reserves and the decision. I guess, you can look back on the decision and say we could have retained and earned, or we could have given back to the community. We chose to give back to the community, which makes it a little more challenging right now to not have the cushion. And I don't know enough about where each banked cap stream is coming from, other than they are still able to work with bank cap.
Did they say how much?
How much on the bank cap?
No, their capital reserve is.
No,
it was huge.
I think the word was used was huge or significant or massive.
I also think it's, while they're a neighboring district, they're running one school, we're running two.
Exactly.
We have two full staffs, we have two full pieces of property to maintain, two full buildings, and all two full schools of equipment. We can't compare ourselves with Hunterdon Central, who has one school, one staff, one building to operate. I think there's some great differences between Hunterdon Central and North and Voorhees, but I think it's unfair of us to use their meeting as a point of reference to compare ourselves against while we're two separate, very distinctly separate districts.
Yeah, there was a discussion
I
at our.
caution that.
Yeah, I was, I gotta say that what I really appreciated about the presentation was that I actually had a presentation that was able for the prelim to be available to the public and to the board members to be able to really, and they really broke it down. I mean, they talked about it in committee, so when the BA did their instruction, I mean, the board members were used to it, they had questions, most of their questions were already answered. And I thought that was great because a lot of public had questions, and the public were informed of where they were getting their numbers from, and so were the board members. So
well, it helps you clarify things.
Absolutely.
These are that ability to say transportation is this, electric is that, staffing is this.
Yeah.
It becomes concrete.
And there was another one too, also Westmore Central, that also is the same kind of district like us, same kind of community, same kind of two high schools, same situation. Theirs was also really, really good too.
In the past, last year was my first year, so I'm not remembering when we were at the preliminary phase. I can't remember if Katie did the presentation only at the...
No, it's in April.
The final budget.
She does the
final
presentation
budget,
in April.
In April. No, but you're talking about
the preliminary.
Our preliminary budget, I believe, has always been dealt with in committee, because the committee supports the, whatever they decide in committee and brings that to our board meeting for recommendation for prelim. And when we go to final is when we go through and Katie breaks it down as where the money's being spent.
But also
and
where,
we have shortfalls.
after the county's reviewed it.
Yeah, right, because we have to have
approved it,
approval from the county as well. So that's when Katie does the detail.
And I'm only saying that from the perspective that looking ahead, like the more opportunities we have to sort of message the specifics, I think just.
I think it's a
lets
great,
people
I
sort
think
of
it's something we can
digest
definitely
it.
look for in
Yeah.
20, when we do this again next year, if there's a way to take away from a better practice, then we should. But I don't think we can, sitting here and comparing last year, other school districts' presentations to our presentation tonight isn't going to make our vote any different tonight. I just don't want to spend time on other school districts when we're here.
I was
to vote
actually
on ours.
responding back to you though, but thank you for your questions about some of those things, because I had this very similar questions regarding it, because we're not able to see, because we don't have the prelim.
Mike, on the anticipated increase of electrical utilities, which is big, so do we know what that demand is? Because I know we worked on the solar, so I was hoping the ratables we were putting into place, something that would mitigate.
Well, I think the solar's already in place, so it really, it's 20% on top of basically what we paid last year.
And then what's the increase? The big.
Is that the tariffs again?
about
It could be
200.
tariffs.
It's about 200,000.
Yeah.
So our usage isn't going all through the roof, it's just the ratables are increasing?
It's the portion that we're paying.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes,
Consumption's
it's the
not-
portion we're paying that is not generated by solar. I believe our, and again, I'm using round numbers, but I believe our electrical used to be closer to $3 million a
Yeah.
year. Solar panels have mitigated that,
Yes.
and now it's closer to.
Okay, but it's no unusual increase or anything, it's just from the ratables that it's.
Yeah, and it was
You can
everywhere.
look at our home
It
bills
wasn't
and
just
see
us.
an unusual
I
increase, too.
got the letter at home as well,
Yeah.
that my electric bill was going up 20%. I was
Yeah.
like, wow.
Okay, yeah, so.
So just one last thought on the budget, because Rich already had mentioned it during the committee meeting, and that is, have we undergone a measure in which we start to look at where there can be savings in our purchasing too? Like, in a company, a procurement department that will evaluate, are we buying things at the least cost, but it's still at the same, same value, or that the product is as good, right? I mean, I don't know if we do something like that, but it may be something worthwhile to do if we're really starting to look for money versus the need to do a referendum.
And that's one of the things that we would plan to do this year.
Okay.
Again, this past year was sort of fractured, right?
No, I know.
Here and there, trying to catch up, trying to make sure that we don't make a decision that's
Yeah.
not fiscally responsible.
Right.
But purchasing and procurement will definitely be an issue that we look at. I know we are a member of a lot of consortiums, so that gets some better pricing, but maybe there's more that we can be a part of. We're always looking for ways to cut. And again, if we do our job this year,
Yeah.
and we raise the tax levy by what we're recommending, we'll have that much more next year to be able to offset the budget next year, and maybe I don't have to ask you for the full amount next year, because we were able to get those efficiencies. But right now, based on what we know, if we don't go up to this percentage, something's gonna give.
Okay.
So.
I do notice that the football field lights are on a lot when there's nothing going on.
There's always some practice or something there, yeah.
Okay.
There's usually something that's coming, they turn them on, when they're coming, but.
Okay.
She's not here to get the comment, but Katie, we all should recognize the work that Katie had done to get us to the point where we
Yeah.
are.
I agree.
If our electric bill used to be $3 million, and now it's 20% on that.
Well, even the HVAC grants that she was able to get us last year and save us closer to $10 million, there are so many things that we could point back to that our business office has been helping us and making us, has been fiscally responsible for this district. And again, most of this budget, Doug has helped with the last, few weeks, and we've been, tightening things up. But most of this was, Katie's work going into this, understanding the projections that, what we're going to need for next year. And when she comes back in August, she wants this to be a budget that she can support and maintain. And so I am supporting her, as well as, Doug's, experience looking at this, he agrees with everything she has been doing, so.
Good job.
Yeah,
yes.
I think she's earned that respect with what she's done. And she's the one that kind of drove don't go take advantage, we don't need to take advantage of those extra, the special offer from the state last year.
Yeah, last year, yeah.
We can give back the money before, we can get these grants. I think she's earned, if she says we need this, I think, I believe her.
I trust her.
And Doug, you second the motion, so.
Okay, is there any further, everyone has had an opportunity to speak?
Doug, I have a question for you. So the next stage would be for the budget to go to the county, correct? For their review.
Correct.
Is it common for them to ever reject it? And if they do, what would be?
Normally what happens is they
Or make changes, I should say,
they
not
request
reject.
changes. What they're clarifying is that it's been submitted in compliance with statutes, and
You're not
regulations.
actually reviewing it.
Well, they're not looking at it from your perspective.
Correct, yes, yeah.
No, they're looking at it as like, do they have everything in the right box?
Correct.
That's their role. And then once we met that criteria, then it comes back to you
Understood.
for approval to say, hey, taxpayers, we're gonna, pass this budget and there is an impact to your homes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your authorization you have here, is that level.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Sorry, is there any other board member that would like to say something? Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve 12.1.
So moved.
Second.
A roll call vote?
Okay. Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Dr. Keeney?
No.
Ms. Gallagher?
No.
Ms. Hines?
Yes.
Ms. Cotron?
Yes.
Mr. Lordy?
No.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Spanton?
Yes.
Ms. Vahito?
Beato, yes.
Am I still messing up? I'm sorry. And finally, Ms. Selena?
No.
Let's check my math there, because I only have 5.7.
Not for this.
They're not counting.
The budget
Fails.
Is it gonna be at 12?
It has to be from the full majority of the board, not the board president, for a budget vote.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? What is it?
The vote has to be the majority of the full board, not the full board that are present.
Oh.
So 5.7 does not pass
Okay.
the resolution.
Okay.
So can we have,
Now.
can we have discussion on why?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to know, I mean, I didn't hear a lot of negatives and a lot of people voted no. I'm curious as to why.
I'd like to know the process, Doug. What is our next step?
I can't submit to the county.
Well, I had a question.
We
No,
can't-
before
I'm
we
sorry.
speak to that, what is the process now that it has failed? What is the next step?
You can't submit a budget to the county
So we have to have another meeting.
or another vote.
So would anyone like to, I can speak to, I don't support this budget, and I have sent in questions, I've asked for information, and I don't feel comfortable going out and asking my constituents for above 2% levy. I'd like us to see where we can make savings. And and speaking to the giving back to the taxpayers, I could speak to my constituency, that, when you give back, in my years sitting on the board, when you give, most people don't want you to give that small amount, because they'd rather see you use it and apply it and not use it. And that's what Brendan was saying. And we had done that. I just, there's a lot of clarifications, there's some things that are missing, I just don't feel sound in my decision.
Can I ask you a question? What are you looking for clarification on, and what is it that you're looking, that you don't support about the budget?
Again, I can tell you, I am not comfortable. I have concerns about this budget.
Right, but what are those?
I have sent the concerns to the BA and the administration.
Okay, but we're discussing the preliminary budget. Would you mind sharing Kim's concerns about the budget for us?
That is not appropriate at this
I
time.
think it is appropriate.
Every board member has their right to their vote
Understood.
and
but
not
we're
to be
talking
scrutinized by other board members.
We are talking, though, about that you don't support the budget, that you're looking for clarification on items. If you, as board president, has identified specific issues with the budget, shouldn't you be sharing them with your fellow board members?
I've been sharing them.
Oh, I haven't gotten anything
I've
about
shared with
them.
I sent my request to administration, and I have serious concerns. And I don't want, there's certain things that I don't think we can talk about that would be
Really?
related for policy or security.
Okay.
There are numbers that were run, but we could, there's concerns with legal bills. There was questions in our committees asking where we could cut and make savings. And we did not receive that, and I did not receive that.
Is this a little late in the game at this point? Shouldn't we, if you had concerns about the budget as a board member, knowing that we do this every January, don't you think it would have been responsible to ask for those questions prior, knowing the order of events that were about to take place from January to now? We had adequate time.
We talked about the tax levy
Yeah.
before this.
Excuse me.
Jessica,
One person at a time.
just to clarify on that, because there was a point in time where I was asking for some information, and we just recently got it. So to answer your question, there was a series of questions that I had asked.
What are your concerns, Rich?
I was just unconvinced by the information that I was provided that
Okay.
this was the best way to go. I'll have to defer to what we can say, what we can't say, but based on what was provided to me, I didn't feel that this is the appropriate time to go above and beyond the 2%, based on savings that I believe are there that we're not taking advantage of, and I'll defer to them.
Rich, I'd like to know what we can discuss or what we can't on the budget and what the
Rich,
concerns
I
are.
advise you not to speak to those numbers.
That's why we should have a lawyer here, because it's not up to you to decide. We should understand what we can and can't talk about.
But I think the question
I
is
That's a problem.
The question Dan had posed,
Yes.
and now Jessica's asking, each individual board member
Yeah.
can state their reasoning why.
Okay.
They also do not have to state.
That's fine.
But I am
You
stating my
can't-
concerns.
You can't tell him not to answer.
Yeah.
You can't advise
I
him
just
to do
spoke
that.
with the superintendent. It's
I'd like to-
regarding safety and our,
That's fine, so if it's specific.
So if it's
So you'd like to
security,
elaborate
Rich,
to
that
that?
you're looking into,
So-
then that's invaluable.
Jessica, it's one board member at a time.
Understood, Kim. Thank you so
And
much
it's,
for clarifying.
we ask you to be
Thank you.
decorum,
Thank
civility.
you. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. So let everyone
you.
speak.
Thank you.
So what I was saying was, then if it's as to security and safety, then Rich should be able to say that. That's fine, and then we all know that we're not permitted to talk about security and safety, fine. But I agree with Jessica. The only way we can potentially address someone's concerns about what's missing is to discuss it and see if we can put those concerns at ease. But if we just don't discuss it, then we're never going to get something done. So now, we're moving ahead without a proposed budget. What happens then?
And if we could vote on it again tonight
Yeah.
and address some of the concerns that are here, that maybe we could dispel and put to rest, maybe we can move forward and get a budget to the county. But if we don't know what people's concerns are, and some of us don't have them.
Do we have to meet? Can we?
Wait, Kim, I was speaking. I'm sorry.
So
Kim, I was speaking. I'm sorry.
I'm asking for guidance from our administration.
I'm sorry. I didn't
regarding-
realize I was in the middle of
So
speaking.
is that potentially?
What's the question? What is the question?
You had stated to me it needs to be in tomorrow, correct?
No, it has to
Or
be
is it the
Friday.
21st?
This has to be submitted on Friday.
Okay. So I suggest that we delve into committee, and anyone who has sent in questions and asked for material, that we have those discussions, and then we come back as a board.
Are we going to have a special meeting then to vote on this before Friday? Because if you were waiting on answers and you got them, and we're at vote tonight, we won't be able to vote on this again by Friday when it's due.
It would have to be a special meeting.
Well, I mean, how is that going to be possible? We're all,
we have to advertise.
We have to advertise.
yeah, I mean, we're not gonna have time.
So we'd have to call the county office to find out what happens with this, because I've never experienced it, Doug's never experienced it.
Yeah, it would be nice to have an attorney to advise us.
We also have the opportunity to amend the budget next month.
Yes, we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why are we?
Yes, we
'cause I
do.
haven't-
We can have a discussion about accepting the budget tonight and making amendments to the budget. It goes into the county to, as Doug said, to be checked to make sure everything's the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. And we can amend it, and we could all, each of us who voted no, we certainly could ask the things we'd like to see.
Are we worried, I mean, I feel like some of this might be overstepping our role as a board and delving into into administrative business that is.
And I'd like to address that.
Good, thank you.
I spoke to the attorney, and that is not. We
Can
are
I ask
asking.
which attorney you spoke to?
Jessica, I spoke to one of our councils, and I am asking you and telling you, you're asking me, it is not an overreach, it's not overstepping. It is our fiduciary responsibility to vote on a budget, but we need to be clear, we need to be concise, we need to be aware of what we're voting on. And there are questions that are lingering, are hanging, that they're not clear. The material we received was not clear. And we have to be able, Jessica?
Real quick.
No, I'm stating my point, and that's my point.
Okay.
We have to be able to make an informed decision, and that is our personal purview. Every board member represents their constituencies.
Can I ask, what presentation was done in finance, in the finance committee? Was there an extensive presentation of the budget that was gone over in committee that because as a board, we meet as committee, we read our notes, or we trust that our decisions that are made in committee and discussed in committee come before the board with administrative recommendations. But what kind of presentation was made that there was, that there's so much left where we can't pass a budget or pass a preliminary budget? What was left out, perhaps?
I'll answer it from my point of view.
Great, Rich.
You received one page. So if that helps, I mean, that kind of
Is
goes
this
to.
the page?
Yes.
But there was a whole bunch of
There was
additional
discussion around it.
documentation that was in the folder to review along with it, right? There were comparisons of spend during versus prior year. There were a whole bunch of documents that I reviewed that showed what we had spent on different things and what the difference was going to be going to this year versus next year. So I'm confused about what wasn't provided, because I saw a whole bunch. There's a budget comparison, there's a whole thing about admin salaries and benefits, there's a budget projection. I mean, there's a lot here.
Yeah, short of, this presentation went through all the numbers, why these numbers are the way they are, what are the decisions to be. So short of us, the board, going into the administration and making programmatic changes, personnel changes, that this is the budget. So is that what we're suggesting, that we're gonna go in and make changes to what our professionals are?
We don't go in and make changes. When we had our committee meeting, it would have been fiscally sound and prudent. There would have been, to come to that meeting, and you as being a chair and our administration to say, this is what we're proposing as a budget, and this is what could happen, okay? This is what we'd like to happen. We didn't see any other proposals, any other discussions, and that was brought up in the committee. What happens if? We talked about this.
And so, and I can understand Rich's concerns because he hasn't been here. So he hasn't been here for past years and known that we've had this discussion every year, knowing that if we do not, make these changes, we're gonna hit a wall. And we've known that going forward, that's what we have to do to stay balanced. You know, and then to Rich's concern, he hasn't been here, so he needs to get that information. But you've been here, we've all been here. We know this. This is, like I said, that's why I suggested that 5-year projection. When we had that 5-year projection in front of us, and we were voting on whatever the budget increase was that year, say it was 2.5. There was no question, we have to do this, or else, 3 years from now, we're gonna have to start cutting programs, personnel, like there's gonna be major problems. So for us to come at the meeting, at the final meeting, to review and approve the budget, to go to the county and say, oh, I think we need to change something here, I'm not gonna comment specifically, but to make, smaller changes it doesn't make sense. It maybe in the future, going into next year, but to do it now is preposterous.
I'll just say this on my point, that I made it clear coming out of the committee where I stood.
Yeah, no,
So
I
I
agree.
didn't, this is not a surprise to the administration or Doug where I was on it. And again, they know my concerns. My concerns are still here today, and it's not a surprise because I told everyone in that meeting where I was. So they've known for a week plus now where I was on it. So that's me.
And Rich, but for those of us who weren't at the meeting, at the committee meeting, and those of us who hadn't heard the concerns that were brought up in the meeting, and being through this experience before and knowing administration and understanding how Katie puts together the budget, if there are, and my questions were, if there were specific concerns that as, a tenured board member that I'm not aware of, I would appreciate understanding that. Because as far as I'm concerned, and as far as, in years past, we've worked in lockstep with Katie, and Katie's recommendations have been spot on for our district as far as what we need and conservatively how we spend it. And if there's items that you're finding that are out of the ordinary, excessive cost or things like that. But if I'm looking and we go to the 2.6, what is the actual difference from 2% to 2.66?
I'll tell you what it is. It's $428,000, $428,444.
Out of how much of a total budget?
A $65 million budget.
So we are splitting hairs over $400,000 when we can't pass a budget for $400,000 because we need a 0.66% increase, and everything that we're here is all nitty gritty picky things when we're here for the education of the students and not to make, and while yes, we are here to be fiscally responsible to our constituents, but we're looking to save $428,000 and split hairs over it so we can't go to budget. Is that really what we're coming to blows about? On a $65 million budget that there's 428 that you think we can cut?
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying, and I would have felt comfortable going up to the 2% cap.
We are going to the 2% cap. We're using additional funding. We're using additional funding to give us the extra money that we need so that we don't have to go and be fiscally and pull money at a greater rate, like if we're comparing ourselves to Hunterdon Central, they're doing. But this is where we're voting no because of $428,000 out of $65 million? Really?
Does that even equal $1 per house? But even, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not talking about it.
I mean,
We won't know that until we get all the budget software approved by the county, and then we get all that information.
But still,
We have about 400,000 houses.
But still, $428,000 out of $65 million, and we can't come to a decision.
I know.
Come on, guys, we're better than this. Our children deserve better than this.
Proposed was 3.3%, and that's why we and that was at 2.2. So that's, we were originally budget last year was 3.3. And when we were still over the 2%, we brought it back down as much as we could because we understand the impact on our taxpayers. So, you know, like everything, we're behind the 8 ball here. We can look, and we should be looking at, not us, but the administration that we have to manage the district on cost effectiveness, going out to better pricing.
Yeah.
So we could put that, make that one of our board goals, but right now, I'm not sure how, or like, what are you gonna pull this from? So where's that 400,000 gonna, what are we gonna, who's gonna make that decision? What are we going to cut? Because our students come first, I just don't know.
What do we have to cut to get to $428,000 to 2%?
Could I just, the football program?
We could cut the football program. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, then we don't need to turn the lights on.
Exactly.
Oh, there we go. Then we can bring down
But
expenses.
everything we're gonna do is impacting our students.
Exactly.
So we
It's
need
about the
to,
students.
and to do it at the last minute really makes me uncomfortable because our students deserve better.
Yeah.
At this point.
When,
I guess my question is,
when this budget has been
what do you
being,
mean by the last minute? That part I don't understand. This is the process, correct?
Well, actually,
Okay.
we should bring this up, you know,
One,
in January.
board members, one at a time, and I would ask public to stay quiet, please. This is a board discussion.
He asked me a question.
No,
I
not,
don't
I'm saying
appreciate-
one-on-one, he's asking you a question.
That's what we were just doing, that pounding, so in January, or even now, we should be looking each year, each time our committee meets on finance, facilities, and transportation, we are looking at everything.
Yeah,
So
we
in the
reported
past-
last month that it was 2.7,
Yeah,
or, yeah.
so, but, you know, transportation's been a big one. And every time you guys meet, you guys report out because we're constantly looking on how we can pull those costs down. The health insurance is something out of our control. We did go, and Katie did an outstanding job when we were looking at switching over to the group that we're with now, because where we had been before, they were looking at I don't know, 15%. It was crazy what Horizon, that grouping was giving us some pricing. But we're constantly looking at these things, and that's what that committee is doing. So it should be starting now, but right now we're sitting here with a budget that has to go out Friday, so proposal to the county. So it feels like it's last minute, even though it's been in the works. We should have been focusing on it clearer come January.
I agree with that.
So, yeah.
The other thing too is, and you know, this budget comparison document I found to be very helpful. And if you look at the original budget versus the original budget in 24-25 and the proposed budget of 25-26, there are a number of items on this list that we are reducing already as part of this budget. So again, it comes back to where are we gonna find $400,000 so that we don't have to do a 0.66% increase, which again is not gonna be a huge amount to taxpayers. It's minor. Again, if it's 50 cents for each house in this county, in the district, I'd be surprised.
Well, to be fair to that, I mean, respectfully, I mean, what's minor to you might not be minor to somebody else, respectfully.
No, I know, I understand, I totally do. But even thinking about my constituents, 50 cents is what, on a house, is what we're potentially talking about. So I don't know, versus did you say it was 65 million?
Yeah.
That's the nut that really is of significance, so.
Yeah.
So at this point, we can do one of two.
I think.
Oh, sorry, Brendan.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to what you're perhaps about to say. I guess I'm wondering our process forward, because this is a preliminary budget. I thought you said something before to the effect that in theory we can pass a preliminary budget. It's going to go to the county for review to make sure we put everything in the right boxes. It sounds like some material may have been provided, I don't know, that would give folks time to have questions answered. Ultimately, we vote on it next month. It gives us time to have questions answered, rather than putting ourselves in a position of having to urgently do something in a rash manner
Agreed.
between now and Friday.
And that's why I said we can make a
That's
motion
what I
to
thought.
amend,
Okay.
and we can have that discussion.
A motion to amend or a motion to?
Just a motion.
A motion.
A motion
Sorry,
to
I
do
meant-
what? Are we motioning?
We can take a motion in a second to go around, have another
Another
vote. With the understanding, as I was stating, I mean, to motion to amend, but that we have an open discussion moving into the preparatory for the final budget.
I have a question. We go to vote now, we vote to submit, we go to next month, and the discussion comes up, and people don't like the way the numbers ended up, and now we don't have approval of our budget. What happens then?
What happened?
Help me out. What happens?
Well, it's coming.
Have to go back.
Well, one thing, you won't be able to submit to the municipalities the request for tax levy to operate your schools. That'll stop. You will, and I haven't been through this before, so I'm kind of drawing on different aspects of my knowledge here as to what could happen. You may get a CUSAC finding because you haven't, met your financial responsibilities as a board. So there's a lot of downside to the board to not move it forward. But as the President has said, if you approve the budget tonight, you've got a lot of time between now and April 29th for other questions, vet out some things like, how much is this going to impact our taxpayers on an individual household? I think that's a key component to this as well. And if things of that nature should be forthcoming then with the additional time that we would have.
I have a follow-up question. And I honestly don't know this, that's what I'm asking. If there are emails and discussions and paperwork that's being passed around, is it possible to put it on our drive, the answers thing, so we can review them before we come into the meeting? Because I know we can't send emails to each other, right? We can't do that, but if it's in the drive and we can review it, is that something that we're able to do so that we're all educated on it prior to coming into the meeting? I don't know. But
Well,
if
we have
find out-
emails that come in through chairs to the committees.
Right, okay.
But then you have emails that go to either
I
the
know.
administration or Doug. And I will say that the process through our board it's not consistent. It's consistently inconsistent. When people send emails, they send emails to Dr. Burjax, and he's busy doing other things, and when there's things that could be vetted and come to the board president, and then submitted to him and Doug, by all means. We have to learn to agree to disagree, respect each other at the table.
No, that's totally fine.
And I would vet those. There would be no email left not, I guess, attention of the administration. But there seems to be a disconnect. So in you saying that, I would say use the chain of command. But when someone sends questions, they're sending questions particularly pertaining to a committee, they go through the committee process. Are you talking about that? Or are you talking about any questions in general?
I'm talking about the budget.
Right.
And as paperwork comes in that's been requested for review, it'd be helpful if we can all see it.
I mean, I
not
think
just
it's
restricting it to the person.
And see the
yes,
question that actually asked and prompted for that paperwork as well.
Yeah.
Because we don't know, like I said, I
think
don't know what your concerns are, I don't know what Rich's concerns are.
The questions would be in anything referred to FFT, and then questions that we're having with administration, we could put a request to put in the FFT folder.
That's what I'm asking. Can we put it
Like
in
it's
the
specific
So-
questions, but
So specifically, so Rich, had a lot of questions in the meeting, and so there was a lot of information that Dr. Burjax provided to him that was put into the drive. But what your question is you want to see the question that sparked.
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay.
I would have no problem with that.
I would like to see
But
what
I don't know if
prompted
that's-
the
yeah.
the
I mean, I don't know
question.
if
Because Rich, you asked great questions.
Thank you.
I got no problem with that. And I would like to know what you're thinking, because you do come to the table with some really good thoughts.
Yeah.
And I can't read your mind, I don't read anybody's mind here, but I assume that if you're finding and uncovering something, and as a board we rely on each other to convey information, that if there's a concern that is relative to the entire board and our constituents, as well as the importance and the of our students, because that's where we keep forgetting. This isn't, it's just not about $428,000. We have a school to run. We have a budget to pass and lights to stay on, and we need, if there's concerns about what's going on in the school and how we're spending our money, then we should all be engaged in that conversation. But as far as I'm concerned...
And I will interrupt, we all are. To accuse anyone at the table that they're not here...
I didn't accuse
for
anyone.
the purposes of children, education...
I didn't accuse anyone. I
we
just
are
said
here for
I
the
never
same
said
purposes,
that.
Jessica.
I never said that, but it's important that we remember it.
Moving forward...
Kim, I would really like to finish my sentence. As you like to finish your sentences, I like to finish mine.
Please
so
finish,
thank
Jessica.
you. Rich, it would be really interesting to see what you have to say, and I'd really like to have it shared because I really would like to see it.
I have no problem.
And if it and as I said, we need to be conscious that this is a school we're running and not just a piece of paper with numbers on it. What we cut impacts our students. These expenses are there for a reason. They've been justified through our BA and our administration. And if we're looking for savings for waste or surplus, I'm all for it. But if we're cutting services like, our officers in our school, things that affect our children's safety, the fact that we can't employ the right districts in our school because we can't employ the right teachers in our school because we can't attract talent, because we don't have a budget to pay them, that's a big problem. And if we can't get something passed tonight, we don't have anyone here to guide us as to what's going to happen to us.
Yeah.
We don't have an attorney here to tell us here's the ramification of voting no. So we don't really know.
I think we know.
We do know.
No, we don't know.
We do know.
What is it?
I just stated what that was.
We have to come to special meeting.
We either come to a special meeting or we take another vote and we have this open discussion, which we're having, which is a positive. We're discussing it. And we go back having this discussion, we know now, and the administration is abreast, the BA is abreast of what Rich has been asking, certain people are asking, myself, and we can have those candid conversations in depth in our committees. We have plenty of time before the meeting and then going into the budget. And there shouldn't be a reason why anybody here doesn't support the budget in April.
Good.
So-
I'd like to motion to revote on 12.1, please.
Second.
That was a motion and a second from Dan.
And you're ready?
Yes.
Just as a point of order, that's allowed, we can just have
Sure.
a motion to revote.
It's a new motion.
Because it failed.
I renumbered it. The first one failed, the new number is going to pass.
I have a couple questions before we proceed. How do you want to address Jessica's concerns? Because if she wants access to my information, she can have anything she wants. I just don't know how you do it.
We're going to put it in the drive.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
if
gonna all
you
go
want
in.
my emails, you can have them.
Oh, I don't want your
Doesn't
emails.
bother me.
I don't care. I just want to know the question so
Yeah.
that when I see the data, I know what it's referencing.
Sure.
And if you have a concern
So-
about a specific item and you're getting details
So,
back,
Rich,
I'd like to know what it is.
we can put those questions, compile all the questions from any board members that had budget questions with the admin's responses, and we can put those in the drive. Then we'll have that for discussion, and anything else that was in your purview that you've had discussions with outside of that. And I know there have been other board members that have had discussions, asking questions regarding the budget.
I'll say this, if it helps you answer your question about the timeline, it kind of feels late, right? I can empathize with that. A lot of the questions that I posed were questions that I asked when I first came on. And to give you context of when we got the answers, it was the day after the FFT meeting. So it was more of like, these are some overarching questions that I had regarding the entire organization that I kind of asked a lot of times. But then it didn't come until after we had already met. So it was hard to digest all of that material, then have additional questions on top of that. and then be prepared to move forward above the 2% tax levy tonight.
Sure.
That's for me.
Yep, and you know, I just, on your point, and when we ask what we can do, if you look at the comparisons, one of the areas that's up 15.85% is transportation, and we talk about this a lot, and we've really looked at, Katie had gone out to do surveys with Somerset County. It's an area that we really need to figure this out, because this is one of the areas that's huge.
But it's
and
also,
just
that's
growing
an
every
area
year.
that's gonna go up again, because if tariffs are going and when our fuel prices go up, that means transportation goes up again.
Right. So
And
that's
with
what we're
and with
looking
the
at.
shortage
So
of drivers.
Each month we
I
should
understand.
try and figure this
No,
out.
I
because
understand.
it's-
It's from from the information that I asked for, and from the information that I received back, and to answer kind of Jessica's concern, I believe that there's efficiencies that we can take advantage of that would not impact students in any way. That's why.
And I am 100% for that, Rich, but I'm not for endangering the safety or the welfare or the education of the children.
I'm aligned with you on that.
So good. If we can,
I think we
if there's
all
no
are.
There's no
place-
disagreement on that at all.
Well, but I mean, if we're talking security or things like that, so.
There's no disagreement on that at all.
Yeah. All right,
All right,
can
we
we
have
go
a-
to vote?
We have a
If you want to
motion,
vote procedurally to move it forward, I'll just say I'm okay with that, but obviously.
and
I
that's
think-
what we're asking.
Right, I think this discussion was in fact healthy, and it tells you where everyone stands. I mean, but yeah, I'm in favor of moving it procedurally.
If it moves it
If
forward-
it avoids a landmine, sure.
And I
Absolutely.
also would like to say that one of the things that I liked about that is the fact that there are concerns about the 2.66 over the 2. I think the taxpayers, are interested in trying to keep it at the cap. And I think that there could be a good medium between cutting some things without affecting the students, so to speak. There's probably spending, there's different things that we probably can do to bring that back down. And from Lebanon Township, we pay a pretty significant amount towards the high school budget. And I think this was actually a very healthy conversation, because a lot of the
I
stuff
agree.
was aired out publicly, and I think that was a great thing.
And another thing I would just want to touch upon that we have to take into consideration is that we're just looking at this school district. You have to be mindful of what's happening in your local school districts. Like, I'm in Union Township, and I think
That's true.
4.6 is on the table right now.
Yep.
So it's not just, is it $1 per house, like, it's our local school districts are in the same position, so
But
we have
Rich-
to be mindful of that.
But Rich, we gotta worry about our budget, cause we're at this table right now. We have to let the board who's passing those local budgets worry about that budget where you can voice your opinion as well. But we gotta come to the table tonight.
We represent the same people.
We do, and
Yeah.
I completely
All of
appreciate it,
us.
but tonight is about our budget and how we're gonna move forward.
I
So-
believe that our local towns are important too, because, again, we're representing the taxpayers. And if there could be some cuts that can be in a school district, which I'm pretty sure there can with all kinds of different spendings, I trust the admin can make that change. As far as a local district, I reach out to mine. They don't have a preliminary budget yet, so I don't know what they're coming in at, and I am concerned for the taxpayer. And as much as I'm trusting that the administration will be able to readjust and come up with a better percentage of the cap.
So moving forward, we have a motion on the floor and a second, correct?
Correct.
Okay, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Chapman,
Yes.
Dr. Dini,
Yes.
Ms. Gallo,
Yes.
Ms. Heinz,
Yes.
Ms. Coltrane.
Yes,
Did I get that right?
it's close enough.
Oh. Mr. Lordy,
Yes?
Mr. McIsaac,
Yes.
Mr. Spanton,
Yes.
Ms. Beato,
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Salino.
Yes, and that, I'm happy that we're coming to an agreement to have an open, earnest discussion tonight and to continue that before the budget in April. Thank you. Moving to, I need a motion and a second to approve items 12.2 through 12.8.
Wait, one second.
Oh.
I just want to finish reporting out. That was just the
Oh,
budget.
sorry,
That's
sorry.
okay. The rest of these items on the agenda are all standard items moving forward. it was our consensus to move forward with those. I did want to report on, we did have a discussion about the board attorney and when the board attorney should attend the meetings. We did talk about the costs related to that. There was a cost, it ranges depending on how much prep they do. So the costs were anywhere from 16 to 18, somewhere in those ranges depending on the meeting. So upwards of $24,000 in a year, and we did decide that although this is not something to vote on, it's just basically setting up a standard practice. We felt that Rich should be the person to report out to the board president if he thinks that there's something coming up that we need the board attorney at the meeting, and he would be the one that makes that decision moving forward.
So you're going to be making the decision as to whether or not to have the board attorney at the meetings now?
I will recommend my decision to the board president.
But it will still be Kim's decision, not yours.
It is a board decision.
It
It's
is
the
the-
purview of the board president, and
You
with-
have reminded
Can
me.
you let me
You
finish?
have reminded me quite nicely
Jessica?
that it is a
I'd
board
like to
president decision.
finish my statement.
Okay, let's,
I meet with the superintendent, and we have a dialogue, and we discuss. This was on a recommendation in committee from the superintendent as well.
I didn't ask
And
for
there's
Rich's
no other
recommendation. I'm
discussion.
asking for clarification.
That is your clarification.
So it is ultimately up to you as board president. I just want to make sure.
And I do ask Dr. Burjaks, and we keep in contact with the attorney. If there's any updates we need that must be done, they will be here.
Can I ask, are we using special counsel or our standard counsel for
We are
advice?
using both counsels when needed.
Okay, so how do we, again?
Jessica, we are using, that's all I'm going to answer.
Okay,
It's
so-
not an agenda item, it's not an action item on the agenda. Thank you.
Oh, God.
But I do just have a clarifying question on that though. And that is, if a board member believes that there is something that is going to be raised on the agenda, can we put forth the rationale for the recommendation that the lawyer attend? And can it be considered or discussed before?
You can
an outright
certainly, if there's
decision?
something, an issue personally or other,
Yeah.
you send that email to
Okay.
me, copy the superintendent, and there's an open, earnest discussion,
Including the board member that asked for.
including, it would be a response to any individual.
But it won't include the board
Yes.
member who makes the request? The discussion will be held between you and Rich?
No.
And then you
No,
will make the
I
decision?
just said,
Okay, just wanted clarification.
and that has happened, that doesn't change it with any one of you. We agree to disagree, but I follow process. And I spoke to Dr. Burjaks, I brought the attention, there was an email, period. It will be addressed.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there was still that iterative process.
Yeah,
That's fine.
send it through me, copy Dr. Burjaks, and it will be addressed.
And one other thing I'd like just to add, that if Rich is recommending to you that we need to have the attorney at the meeting, if you dissent, if you disagree with that, I think that should be something that should be shared with the board.
I have, so you know, I have not.
No, I'm not
I
saying you won't, I'm just saying in
requested,
the
and we
future.
talk about what the need is. Are we getting specific updates or not? And yes, of course. If there would be not, that would be senseless. Why would I do that? If the
I'm
board,
just asking you-
if
I'm
the
just asking
attorney
how you
needs
would
to
proceed.
be here for specific updates, the attorney will be here.
Okay, great. So Rich will let us know.
Tim, I got a question on that front.
Yes.
If an attorney is coming here, because what did you say, it was 1,800?
It depends, 'cause
Yeah,
it
give or
involves,
take.
yeah, because it involves how much prep they need to do.
Right.
I don't know if it's travel time, things like that, but it's.
Sure. Is it possible to maybe rearrange the agenda to put topics that the attorney would have to address at the front, so they don't have to sit here for?
Yes, so that
Yeah,
was
that was
actually going to transpire, if the need be. We can move exec session to the beginning of the meeting, so the attorney can come, give exec session, and then we could come right out into our public.
Seems
Yes.
reasonable.
Yes, absolutely. We don't want the attorney coming and sitting and waiting for us. So absolutely. Thank you, Rich.
Is that roughly the annual estimate, is that for attending this expenses, or is it all legal fees?
No, that is attending board meetings and prepping for board meetings.
We should talk about that. We shouldn't be paying for transportation to the.
Oh, I didn't.
No, I said
don't
no,
quote me
he-
on that. I don't know about that.
I didn't speak to travel time. I
No,
said.
I said it, and I apologize. I don't know that to be true, so.
So.
You mentioned it, is it true? Do we know if that's true?
So if you have any questions, I tell you, if you have any questions, you can send them to me and copy Dr. Burchak's. Let's move on to the agenda items. We are now, we need a motion and a second for 12.2 to 12.8.
So moved.
Second.
That was Tara and Beth.
Okay, thank you.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? All good?
We're good, motion passed.
Excellent.
Motion carries.
Moving on to Community Relations and Student Affairs Committee Report.
We didn't meet this month, in light that we were strategic plans, so next month we'll have more to discuss. And I'm hoping that everybody has RSVP'd and coming to at least one of the events. And if you talk to constituents in their districts, the areas to come, you said 25 have RSVP'd for North and 10 for Voorhees?
21 and
21 and 10. So if we can get.
Any way we can publicize that anymore or get better
We
attendance?
sent out a reminder yesterday.
Yeah,
to all of our
I mean, I feel like
constituents.
with the population size of each school, the turnout seems really low. Especially if people have opinions and they want to make change. I implore anybody who's listening to this meeting to encourage your constituents and parents in our sending district to attend. We really want your feedback, and we need it.
Well, I made a suggestion to Dr. Burchak. I don't know with that small set of numbers right now at Voorhees. Do we pool everybody together and go to and still have the both days, but pool them all together? So we're all community.
I think they're
And we
covering
should-
both things, and there are very school-specific
I know, but
things.
maybe we look at that and offer that because you only have X number one meeting and you're going to have a double that.
But then I was also thinking though, if somebody can't meet one, they can come to the other. So,
Yeah. But
so in
they're
other words,
doing,
like
like,
make it
to
known that
Jessica's
if somebody
point.
can't make North and they want to go to Voorhees, even though if it pertains to North, they'd still be able to ask it at the Voorhees.
And we did give that option
I'd
to
like to keep it at
everybody.
Voorhees because of travel, our district, the
Yeah,
northern
we're
part,
far.
Califon, Tewksbury, we're Penwell, all of that. So just to get down to North is another 15, minimum to get back down here.
But
So-
at least it's an option for somebody if they can't make it and they do want to attend in person.
Oh, yeah, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think it's known that you can go to either high school, it's just.
Oh, no, I was just saying to pool them together in one venue.
Oh,
That
yeah.
we'd have more participation, because you do at both meetings, you'll be talking about, it'll be adding on, building on different
Well, no,
topics.
yes, I understood that, but I'm saying for my, especially local, 10 minutes down from Califon or parts of Tewksbury to Voorhees is a lot closer than going all the way another 15 minutes to North Hunterdon. So I would like it in the northern part of the district as well, just so that people won't, add another half hour onto their evening just to get to the other school.
So maybe we just keep sending blasts out, can we do that?
Well, that's what, just on that point, can you, there's a lot of words in that email. Can you just do an image and put that as the email text so that it focuses their attention on that?
And maybe hone in on the title and some
pizza.
keywords. Yeah.
And honestly, if we haven't done it, I would hang signs through the schools because the parents are in and out for events too.
Rich, is there, the survey is done though, right?
The survey is still out there.
Okay.
But
Because another
we
thing
have a
that maybe
good
we can do
participation.
too is talk to our town councils and see if they can put it on the town council website, like on their
I'm
first
open
page.
for any and all ideas on how we can get it out there.
You know?
The more you can help me with that, the better I think it would be.
I remember earlier we talked about getting it to the sending districts.
We did.
And to the superintendents, and do we know if they put it out to their parent communications there?
We asked them to,
Should
most
be
of
on
them,
their websites,
yeah, most of
too.
them are very helpful in that manner, so I'm
Okay.
assuming they did.
Do we have a sense, because Rich was just asking, because not having a child here, he didn't get the email from this building, but you also didn't get it from Union Township, do you?
No.
Okay.
Well, I
Did
can
you,
follow
you
up
got
with
the
Union
one
Township.
from, that we get copied of
Correct.
though?
That, yes.
Okay,
Correct.
but nothing from your sending
No.
district? And I didn't get it,
But
nothing.
it's because I don't have a
the
child,
town councils.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm not a parent for.
Yeah.
Tap into the
No,
town
but-
councils.
It's relevant.
I got the one from the
Yeah,
district.
yeah.
Yeah,
another
As a
good
member,
point, though.
if I wasn't a
You're
member,
talking to mine.
We wouldn't have gotten
So-
the mayor
Correct.
there. Yeah.
Rich,
I'm
you know,
sure we can.
my point is if it was cascaded down to some of the lower grade schools, that maybe you would have gotten it done as a parent of a.
Well, let me ask you this,
We
because
can
we
ask
used to
them.
do this all the time on the local level. Have you, given out to municipal clerks so they can put it on the
That's
municipal
what,
website?
that's what I was just saying.
You know,
I'm not sure.
I don't know if we can do that, and then you said
I
emails.
think, yeah, moving, so Dr. Burjack has done a great job doing that. It's posted, it went to the sending districts, the survey, the emails. But to point, like Beth's saying, put the blast out, put, the title with some catch, phrases, words, and we need to utilize at this point, our town councils.
Yeah.
So, yes, we can reach out to
Is
that.
there like an SMS service, like, do you guys, like, you
Yes.
have a text service? Have you done that?
That's a great idea. Can we do that through the, like,
the
the emergency
one.
broadcast or whatever it's called?
so again, we try to limit that to just emergencies because then
Yeah,
people
okay,
get,
that's true.
Yeah.
feel like they're being inundated and marketed towards, and as much as we.
And that's
like
an
that, it's-
emergency
good
line.
You know, the text message is something that we try to save for an emergency kind of situation. But the emails are,
It is an emergency, our numbers.
I know.
well, 21 and 10 are not terrible numbers, to be perfectly honest. They actually wouldn't be, I'd like to see in that 30-40 range. But even if we, end up hitting 30 at North, and we end up at 20 at Voorhees, I think they're good numbers.
Yeah, and we want the community
You know, we want-
participation.
We want as much as we can get, but there would come a point where it become too big, right? And just not as effective, and that's.
Yeah, but 20
We're trying to hit
out
that
of
sweet
how
spot.
many kids do we have? 20 attendees is just, it feels
We have 20 at responses
No,
at,
I'm being optimistic with 20 at Voorhees. I said if we ended up with 20 at Voorhees and 30 at North,
so we have right now at Voorhees, we have how many?
10,
And North.
21.
yeah, we don't, it's almost,
They kind of have to.
And that I checked today. We sent the blast out yesterday, the reminder blast.
okay. All right, well,
So we can
let's
send another reminder blast out tomorrow, and then I will also ask the sending district superintendents to also, if they haven't already sent this
To
out, to please
cascade
send
it.
it out. Or if they have sent it out, if they wouldn't mind sending it out again.
Okay,
That's great.
all right.
Okay, and Tara, do you want to tap in and remind the upcoming delegate meeting in May, the date?
Oh, good one, I haven't.
Sorry.
You put her on the spot because Christina's
That's why
not
I-
here.
No, I'm pretty sure it's May 19th.
That's what I thought, but
Yeah, it's, I'm pretty sure it's. right-
everybody referred to NJSBA for the delegate
but
meeting.
I'll send you guys an email, but, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that Saturday, the 19th.
Okay, and, well, that'll be a report out for, so Christina's not here.
17th, it'll be the 17th.
It's,
I think.
what day of the week is that?
But it's always on a Saturday, but let me go look it up. The 17th is a Saturday or the 24th, so let's find out.
And for those of you who have not attended, that is really informative, so. It's 9
Yeah,
to,
it's at,
9 to 12.
Yeah, at Mercer County Community College is where they hold it, so it's an easy trip to get down there. Just go down 295.
And that brings me to Christina's not here, the Hunterdon County School Boards. We attended, of course, the Unsung Heroes. That was fantastic, and you all missed out. Hopefully, you guys will tap into that next year. And as Dr. Burjack stated, on May 1st, we will have our Teacher of the Year, Miss Lewick, right?
Yep.
She will be recognized at the dinner, and that is at the Chalet. And again, I recommend all of you go. I go every year. Tara goes every year, and it's wonderful. And you'll see other teachers come too and supporting it. And it is our teacher.
Are students allowed to attend?
No.
No.
Just
Yeah.
Just Board members.
Board members.
Yeah.
And you attended last year, I think.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
And just so you know, I was at the Unsung Heroes, I brought Emma with me, it was pouring and there was no parking, and she was like not having walking in the rain.
Dr. Berjak mentioned.
So,
It was pouring that
I know,
night.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, no,
The
I
one
know.
day a year that we had that much rain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
was pouring.
It was buckets, and everybody was trying to park on top.
Well, and there wasn't any parking available, so I went around back and we were gonna get drenched, so I was like, okay, forget it.
No, we knew you were there, Tara.
Okay.
So.
In spirit, I was there in spirit.
Thank you. Moving on to Personnel Committee report. Christine is not here, so Nicole will report out on the personnel.
Sure. The Personnel Committee met on March 12th. Board members were present. Tara was unable to join us that night. We're doing job descriptions. We reviewed, obviously, the personnel agenda, which we'll be discussing. And the job description we reviewed, the committee reviewed the superintendent of school job description and compared the current version with the language recommended by New Jersey school boards. Much of the language was the same, but there were parts that the committee agreed should be retained, while other parts added language from New Jersey school boards. The decision was made to review and modify job descriptions each month, then present them to the full board for approval at the next scheduled board meeting. Action items or revised job description will be added to the current month committee folder for final review by the committee members and presented to the full board on April meeting.
Any questions? Nope.
Will you show old and new, or like a redlined version of the changes to
I guess we could do that, right? Because the other one is still on there.
Yeah, I mean, we could put them both on there. It's not a red line version because what we did was took the version from New Jersey School Board Association.
Yeah.
And then some of the verbiage that they liked from the previous job description was moved over to that, but the majority of the language was what NJ School Board suggests.
Can we see I'd like to see where we started and where we
They're in the
ended.
committee folder. You can always
Okay.
look at both of them, yeah.
next month, it'll be like a agenda item to vote on, as opposed to,
Correct.
in addition to the stuff we
Correct.
review.
We're reviewing, and then the following month.
It'll be part of the personnel agenda next month, usually
Yep.
under miscellaneous.
Each line item was looked at in that process. And
Oh,
the-
yes.
Yes, and the current job description. Last looked at in 2008.
Yeah, it was looked at the last job description. Yeah, that's true.
Yes. And even as Dr. Berjak, we referred to Dr. Berjak's on, there were many questions and
Yeah.
verbiage and what's used, what's unnecessary, do they match? And it was great having that, again, open dialogue.
And to kind of give the sort of facelift, if you will, to the title, not chief.
Yes,
School administrator,
that's true, Ms. Feeney, that's true.
Superintendent, because we have a superintendent.
And not a CSA. Correct. Moving forward, call for a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 03-18252 for executive session to discuss matters as reflected in the attached resolution. The board expects to be in exec session for approximately 1 hour, and upon return to public, action will be taken.
So moved. Second.
No, it's not a roll call. It's all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? I have a motion and a second to reconvene public session?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Okay, I would like to move 18.1 through 18.3, except for 8.2.1 and 8.2.2. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Who's second? Okay, thank you.
That was Nicole Gallo, second, and
I got.
you got, okay.
Yeah.
And then can we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Mr. Chapman,
Yes.
Dr. Dina, Denina,
Dr. Deemy says yes.
Denina, sorry, I'm gonna get it. Ms. Gallup,
Yes.
Ms. Hintz,
Yes.
yes. Ms. Cortran,
Yeses to 18.1 and 18.2 and abstain from 18.3.
okay, and then, Mr. Lordy,
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac,
Yes.
Mr. Spantoni,
Yes.
Ms. Vito,
Yes, but I need to abstain from 18.3.
okay, and Ms. Selena,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, moving on. Any old and new business?
New business. The delegate assembly is on the 10th of May.
Oh.
It's the 17th is mandated training, governance one, so our new board members haven't done their governance one. There's a in-person in Trenton on the 17th, but.
I'm done.
Good job. So, and then I did want to bring up new business, and I guess it would be to finance, facilities, transportation. We've talked about this before, but transportation, and I know we've looked at, we went to the survey to see Somerset County, because this has become an issue over the last few years. So I'd love to be able to put, maybe if we could focus on some creative ways, because that's a huge hit to our budget. And we have to be able to get our students to and from school in the most cost-effective way.
Yeah, just that. Yeah, I was gonna.
Is there an ability also, I'm assuming, I know we spoke about this in the past, but consolidating bus routes, like where they're doing the morning, then they're doing the afternoon and
Tiering.
anything else, like tiering,
Tiering.
yes, I cannot think of the name of it.
Yeah, I think because we outsourced to ESC, that would be something to look at in detail. And then some districts are doing where parents can opt out, but they have to consent that. I'm not gonna, I'll drive my kid every day, but then on a Thursday.
So they have to opt out for the year.
They have to- and that-
But what happens if there is an emergency where they would have to opt back in?
That's
what we
the
need to look at.
question.
That's always been an issue.
Although, here's the thing, North Hunterdon, I can't speak for Voorhees because I'm not over there regularly. North Hunterdon, there are students coming in and out of that school until 9 o'clock, every night. So if a kid had to stay late, it's not like there would be a safety issue if they had to stay at the school and do their homework necessarily. I don't know what that means from a liability and having it, people there observing them or whatever, but there is that fallback, right? And the question becomes, if you consolidate, is there a way to have one teacher or somebody that just sits in a room, not an aftercare, but in case kids have to stay because they don't have a ride home? I don't know, but I just think that there's a potential there for transportation. The number of students that are being dropped off by their parents is crazy, and a lot of it is because the buses have to come early in order to make the route, right, to get the kids to school on time.
But it's unfortunately, your hands are tied. The district has to provide that service.
I know.
Right.
So even though every day that mom and dad is in line, I come up and I'm like, oh my
I
God, it's
know.
out on the highway
Yes,
to get in and get out. And they might have a bus that runs with 10 kids.
I know, but
But they have to have a seat for that child.
no, I know, but if there's a way to look into,
I agree.
right?
Opting out, offering.
Yeah, something.
And then the other
Business
thing,
can be creative.
the other thing too, to add to that, with fuel costs going down,
Down?
what about the other chances of the buses, smaller buses?
Wait, fuel costs are going down?
Well, the
Yeah,
problem,
they've gone down over the last 2 weeks.
when you talk about tiering, I mean, I think everybody except for Tewksbury has their, is serviced through ESC.
Yeah.
They have their own
No.
buses, don't they?
They have their own buses for their pay through.
Tewksbury does have their own buses.
And
There's a,
that
co-
little machine that can take the snow off.
Okay, girls.
it's a combination of Hunterdon County ESC and Del Val. Del Val actually has a pretty nice size, fleet, and Hunterdon Central also. So I know, particularly, we use ESC as for our transportation services, but some of the runs that ESC is contracting for us are coming from Central, coming from Del Val, coming from Kraft, coming from a lot of different vendors.
But it's unfortunate because there's no real pure competition and they're charging
Right.
outrageous
Yeah.
costs
Right. I
for
know what
these
you're saying.
It's almost
services.
like price gouging a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, almost wanting to get our sending districts and, aligned in other, I don't know, there's gotta
So-
be ways to,
Yeah.
I like Tara's idea. Let's refer this to FFT so we can have a more in-depth
Yeah.
discussion. We can look at cost-saving initiatives, see what we can come up with.
It's good, it's very good.
Dan, can you take that for agenda item? Okay, any other new business, old business?
Yeah, I want to bring back up the article, and the security concerns that are addressed in the article. And ask if it's been addressed.
You want me to
Yeah,
answer that?
tap into that.
Yes, so that situation was a situation where there was testing going on for Polytech placement testing. There was 2 assistant principals in the library. The library door was open to allow parents and students to come in. A gentleman walked in, took a couple pictures. The assistant principal said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Nope," and walked out.
So, how did he get to that place? How did he get to
He
the
was at our
library?
board meeting.
What?
He was at our board meeting across the hall.
And he just,
Walked over, yeah. I mean, again, there was 2 assistant principals there monitoring. They were there for a particular reason. We don't,
So it's not like he reached.
There was maybe 10, 15 seconds that he was in there. He was questioned immediately. He said, "Oh, no, I'm good." Walked out.
I would say, let's not discount that the gentleman was in a place that he wasn't supposed to be, but
Yeah.
there was really nothing that I can see that the district could do to prevent something like that. I mean, it was handled in what seems to be a reasonable amount of time and dealt with, but how would you ever prevent something like that?
Yeah, I don't know how we would.
well, yeah, I find it unnerving that, there's parents and kids in this school. I guess, I know we're having a board meeting in the same school, and there are multi-functions that, happen, but to have someone be, who is not even associated with a child in the school, and is at our board meeting as an outsider, and is, allegedly being paid to be here to spy on us and take notes on us, then to have them be able to wander our schools
Okay,
and
let's see what
violate,
Dr. Burjak has. You have comment?
So I would just like to say, I don't want to get too far into what our security protocols are
Yeah.
in school or
No,
after
I
school.
don't, that's why I'd like it addressed in finance.
But again, I think if,
Or
yeah,
facilities.
FFT, you're going to be busy, Dan.
It would actually be in security.
Or actually, no,
Policy
I'm
and
sorry, it's
security.
policy and
Yes,
security.
thank you.
Yes,
Security.
policy and security, so we can refer that to policy and security and
Yep,
talk
sure.
about.
Can you take note of
Yeah.
that?
Or
Ms.
depending
Gowan?
on the security conversation.
And I believe that
Yes,
there
yes,
were
that's why I closed
It
it
could
down
be.
with Mr. Lordy.
I believe,
So-
though, that the article that there were other pictures associated with the article that he posted
So-
from the inside of the school.
I wasn't able to see any of those because I don't pay for
So,
the access.
Jessica, if you'd like to forward any of that to Dr. Burjak's, and copy me, please do so, but we cannot talk about security, any
Oh, I
program that
wasn't.
we've had.
I'm only repeating what was written in public, so.
But I will say that is why when we meet here, it's in a closed environment, and those kinds of
bathrooms.
things don't, with bathrooms, yes. That those types of things aren't occurring, and yes, things like that, like Dr. Burchak said, there were administrators there. We were having a board meeting in the cafeteria. So, they're abreast of it, it was addressed, and hopefully, public's more mindful. So, any other discussion? Anybody else have anything else?
I had just one other thing to address from the meeting last month. There's some discussion regarding the survey, the winter, wellness survey. And the suggestion that it be an opt-in versus an opt-out for parents. And my concern, I don't know where we ended up netting out on this, but the importance is getting information from the students if they feel they have no other way to communicate their feelings. And again, we come back to the fact that there are a lot of mental health issues that students have that they may not feel comfortable going to their parents. And if that's a way that we can find it, I think it at least raises a red flag for the administration to be able to help the students. So I wouldn't want to opt in, because in that instance then, if you have somebody who just didn't check their emails, then you got this, the survey wouldn't go out to everybody, right? Whereas with an opt-out, a parent always has the ability to say that their child, that they don't want their child to do it. And honestly, if a survey saves one child's life, one child who is hurting themselves, one child who feels that they have no other person to go to because they're dealing with sextortion on their phones, to me, it's worthwhile. And I think it's not about parents' rights, it's about what we're doing for the kids if they need help. And so I'm not sure what we're afraid of in allowing students to do that. And if you're a parent that doesn't want their kid to do that, you have the ability to do it, but I don't want that taken away from my child. Okay?
Is there any other old and new business? I'm sorry, what?
Wasn't there information on that?
Yeah,
There was information on that, right?
there is, yeah, I can.
You want to
Yeah.
address it? Address it.
So, yeah, a board member had expressed concerns about the legality of that survey particularly. We sent it to our special counsel. Our special counsel did inform us that it would require an opt-in permission because of the feelings questions. And it could be considered a psychological examination. And so we stopped doing it.
Unbelievable. So that's a good win for you, Nicole. So the next time
First of
we
all,
have a suicide,
all right,
First of
all right.
all,
let's talk about
Ladies.
it.
excuse me, are you threatening me right
Ladies.
now on the public
Ladies.
table that if
I'm
something
telling
happens to
you,
a student, it's my fault?
Ladies.
First of all, I wasn't the one who questioned that.
Ladies.
Thank you very much for paying attention.
Ladies.
So what's the point?
Ms.
So
Gallo,
what's your
Ms.
point?
Gallo, Ms. Cochran, this is,
Shame on you.
this is a board
Shame on
meeting
you.
and I expect civility and decorum. You agree to disagree, you've stated your points. And we don't have to cackle and laugh either.
It's more than
It's,
disagreement. Let me finish.
There's a
It's
disagreement,
more
but
than
you just accused
disagreement.
me if something happens to a student,
Yeah.
that it would be my fault. Shame on you.
Well, you have
Shame on you.
You have taken other
That's
parents'
terrible. How could you
ability.
even say that to somebody? And you don't know if those surveys at all have done damage to a student. You don't know that, and I don't know that. You don't know that, and I don't know
Why
that.
would they
So you
damage
can't
a
speak
student?
for the rest of the district.
enough.
I would like to know how it could damage a student.
I'm-
It's a
Attorney spoke.
parental
Nicole,
rights
please
issue.
stop.
We want to control
Beth, please
everybody's
stop.
kids when we're
Please.
supposed to be supporting our children who have issues.
Okay.
So you should be happy. to
Dr.
get a win.
Berjak has reported out.
Okay.
We've heard
And
each
special
and every.
counsel is Bush law, right?
So-
Just to be clear.
That's correct.
Bush
Yeah,
law.
that's correct.
Okay. Thank you for that.
So, is there any other new and old business to discuss?
I just have one question. You said you're not doing that survey at all, or is it just going to be for opt-in only now?
The effectiveness of the survey, I think, as we already mentioned, if it's an opt-in,
He'll never
the
have
effectiveness of that, this is to find a student that doesn't have somebody they can talk to.
That's
Their
exactly-
parents are going
Exactly.
to opt them in, it wouldn't have the effectiveness we want.
Exactly. So now we took that resource away.
I mean, again, I want to make sure everyone is very clear. We are still taking a proactive measure on identifying students. Our teachers identify students, our counselors identify students. We have a lot of other ways that we do that, so.
It's very difficult.
But we are doing everything we can to make sure we are identifying and providing services for students that need that. So.
Thank you, Dr.
Score
Berjak.
one for parental rights.
Okay, I'll call for a motion and second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That was Beth and Angela Dini.
No, I think it was Beth
No,
and
it was me.
Jessica.
It was Angela first.
Don't we have to vote?
Oh, yeah.
We haven't gotten there, we're establishing who was second. And I stated it was Beth Cotran was the motion, Angela Dini was the second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Thank you, have a good evening.